Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back once again to Evolution Sim Racing tonight, here for Split B of our GT3 Season 7 Championship. So it's nearly time to get underway for Round 7 at the Circuit of the Americas as our drivers continue that open practice session ahead of what will be two 30-minute races this evening. We saw a pretty entertaining outing here earlier in the week in our GT4 TCR Championship as those guys entered their second half of the season. But for these drivers tonight, it truly is starting to get towards crunch time where every single championship point starts to really scribe the order that'll probably define the championship in the next few weeks to come. My name is Joseph Glass, and as always, alongside me in the commentary box is Mr. Dara Thacker. And Dara, I think you'd agree, these GT3 machines around a circuit like COTA really ought to set up some brilliant racing tonight as we enter the final month of this championship fight.
Yeah, I really do love this circuit, and the GT3 works so well around here. First sector, of course, twisty, but you don't really lose too much time in the dirty air. Middle sector, dominated by that long straight and heavy braking zones, and then final sector, tight, technical, overtaking opportunities where you wouldn't necessarily expect them. It really is a fantastic circuit. Looking forward to it tonight. You were right in saying that every point's going to matter from here on out, because if you start to lose ground from here, I mean, you're going to have barely any time to regain those points.
Yeah, completely right. I think a couple of these guys will have benefited from being here on a Monday just to get their eyes in for the circuit, how it feels once again. It's been a little while since we last came here, and of course, a couple of new names floating around toward the top of both of those championships.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how it can develop tonight. Of course, I think really quite close, particularly in that Evo category, between quite a few drivers towards the top, and it really could go either way. And tonight may give us a good indication on who has that momentum going to the final three European rounds.
Absolutely. So then, before we get underway, as usual, let's take a look at the sponsors on the calendar, and then we'll have a run through the standings ahead of Round 7 tonight. So then, as always, a big thanks to Kame, the GP2 Group, and Keenan Eco Energy for their continued support of both our Monday series and here on a Thursday for the GT3s. And as we said, we arrive here at the end of our little US tour, which started a month ago, all the way back on the 9th of January. We've proceeded through 5 circuits. We arrive here tonight at COTA. We finish with that European doubleheader around Imola and Mugello before the season finale around Bathurst, which promises to be a very eventful race. Remember, of course, the drop round in this championship cannot be applied on the final round, so if you want those points to count, then you have to turn up for a very, very tricky night of racing. So let's take a look at the GT3 Premier standings, starting first with the man who's leading the way. That's Mr. Robin Noel Brown for the Suma GP2 Porsche team. He put on an absolutely world-class display last week in the mixed conditions around Sebring, brought home maximum points, and it was such a commanding win. From memory, it was like nearly 30 seconds clear of the field by the time the checkered flag was drawn. Same, sadly, can't be said for Mr. Edward Adcock, who didn't finish that race at all and therefore scored no points, but that will become his drop round probably for the rest of the season. So Robin is in a better position technically at the moment because he has some points to drop, albeit not too many. and he's still got a 51-point gap ahead of his championship rival. Eyes on both of them tonight, especially Mr. Adcock, if he can try and get back onto the top step. Jan Osberg is doing what he can to stay inside that top 3. Too far away, really, to start thinking about the guys in front. So all he has to do is worry about the 3 or 4 drivers, well, in fact, more than that, the 6 drivers in behind him. It's so tight, really, from Howarth all the way down. In fact, anybody looking at that, really, not many points separating these guys. Bearing in mind, there's 100 points on offer tonight. Howarth 25 points behind. Fraser inside the top 5, 22 points behind. Kostrick only 9. And then from there, the numbers dwindle and dwindle. James Bostock inside the top 7, getting his first podium of the season in the second half of this championship. James Robinson has been there or thereabouts, and he needs a strong result to get himself over the 200-point mark. He's been sitting there for quite some time. Dean Sheesby had his best joint result of the season last time out with a P2 finish in behind Noel Brown, which was great to see for Dean. We caught up with him after the race was done, which is always a pleasure. And then it's Mr. Ludbrook, who I believe has picked up not as many points as he would have hoped in the second half of the championship, just inside the top 10. Maxim Dimitrov 1 point off, and Matthias Eggert on the sheet now in that NSX, 17 points off the back of the McLaren driver.
Yeah, it's a little bit closer though in the Evo standings. I mentioned it just at the top of the show, but it really is tightening up beautifully with Danny Weir leading the way in that number 55 Porsche car. Let's see what he can do from there tonight. 376 points is where he finds himself after that. A bit of a boost he's found in the last couple of weeks. The wins in the last 2 rounds mean that he is right at the front of the order in those DNFs in the early part of the season. Pretty much forgotten by now. Andy Schell, 2 wins for his season so far, but difficulties in the last few in the last few races means that he has dropped into second place, 17 points behind Danny Weir. Ryan Abbott finds himself 3rd in the Mustang, a few podiums for him as well, but again, consistency getting him up towards where he is. But Bert Tenkat on the outside looking in, but only by 3 points in terms of that Evo standing. Got Andre Muntan inside the top 5, and that's after he's had 2 P2s in the last couple of races. Wesley Van Rens is in P6 ahead of Robert Savage and James Hallow. Let's see if they can work their way up the order. Sander Tabbers in 9th and Jan Noj in 10th. Let's see if they can maybe find a little bit of the form that they had in the early stages of the season, with the 2 of them taking the opening wins, with Gareth Noon and Dominic Carlson at the top 12, looking to try and get themselves towards that 200-point threshold tonight.
Good stuff. Dara, just a quick mention, I think there's an issue with the microphone, so while I run through the teams, if you can try something, and then after that, I'll try something on my end as well.
Do I sound fine for you, or is it for
you sound fine for me, which is the stream, so it makes me think it's me. But, in fact, why don't you run through the teams if you've got them, and I'll see if I can have that resolved.
Yeah, Teams Championship. Being a close one, of course, it's going to be an interesting one to see how they can work their way towards the end of the championship. But it is going to be a leading position in the Teams Championship for Quartermass Motorsport. Bobby Trundley, Andy Schell, Robert Savage, and Ryan Blackie getting themselves to 830 points. It's tight though, it really is tight with the RDSA of Yanis, Tristan, and Lucchese in P2. I've just seen good amount in the YouTube chat saying drivers, and they really are embroiled in that really tight battle. R Electra P3 with Fretwell, Palo, Van Rijn, and Reiser just ahead of Axis Sim Sports. Couple of really quite a few duos at the moment. Making up the order. Suma GP2 Porsche are in P5 with Kostrick and Noel Brown with their good seasons ongoing. DXT Silver have Rob Mackay, James Howarth, Owen Seward, and Danny Weir, and they're not too far ahead of the bronze team. Hoyland, Brande, Donnelly, and Kenyon. STL and Conehead Racing are inside the top 9, with LS Racing running out the top 10. We've got MJK and Alpha 1 Esports, Moonshiners Racing Club, Viraco, Kame GP2 Porsche, the Sheep Valley Racing, CRM Racing, and Team Noobish teams inside the top 18, all trying to get towards the top of the tree, which only has that 1 point difference.
Good stuff, Dara. So it's a little bit crackly. It came back in and went back out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move you out and move you back in and change the source. So just bear with us, everyone. Give us 2 minutes. We've got a minute and a bit until practice ends anyway. So I will cut back to trackside. And yeah, just give us a minute. We'll see if we can get it sorted. Okie dokie. Right, I'll keep my eyes on that, Dara, and we'll see how it goes. That does conclude practice, so we have timed that one nicely. Yeah, guys in chat, I will listen out when I can, and we'll see if that's resolved anything. Sadly, it is fine for me, so it does tell me that it's an OBS problem. So I'll do my best. Dara, I'll have you do some stuff during qualifying and I'll listen on in the background.
Right.
Good stuff. So then, for the time being... Yeah, let's see. Let's see how it goes anyway. We can always resolve something. There's always a possibility. Let's ride on board with this man for the time being. The man who has come outside of the top 5 slowly but surely over the last several races. Been on the podium for the last 6 in a row. And yeah, I'm sure he will fancy his chances. Of course, we heard him say just last week, Dara, that he likes the idea of getting some practice in on a Monday to gear himself up for the session on a Thursday. And maybe that's going to have done him some good, right? So Danny makes his way round on his outlap now, the 55. And then once he reaches the checkered flag, we'll give him some screen time right on board and see what time the championship leader in the Evo class can set on his first outlap.
Yeah, let's see what he can do. It's good to see that we have him cycle his way towards the top of the championship. There's been a few names that have been there or thereabouts in the attempts in the Evo class particularly. It's great to see Danny get to the top of the tree. Let's see if he can stay there in the final 4 weeks. Still lots of points left to be won, though, so it's by no means done. And with the championship battles as close as they are, we'll have to keep a really keen eye on it. We do have James Bostock out of the pit lane as well. Of course, the boss man in the 166. Let's see what he can do tonight in that beautifully liveried Camo GP2 car. Looking forward to seeing how qualifying goes here, because the races that we have tonight I think are going to be so crucial for the championship. Overtaking far easier here than it should be in the final couple, or in the next couple of rounds, I should say.
Well, the good news is it sounds okay to me at the moment, so I'll keep listening in as we go. Any issues in chat, please? We've got plenty of people there telling me that it wasn't great, so if you guys can do the same, that would be brilliant, because I do need to focus. I can't keep looking over there. But for now, it seems okay, Dara, so we can crack on with the session. Meanwhile, Danny Weir has crossed the line, and he's on his way around the first lap, heading up the hill, now down toward the braking zone. Let's ride on board with the 55 and see how he gets on.
Through turn 1, got to get the nose turned in and run it towards turn 2. Of course, diving back down the hill, you can see the final sector lane out in front of you, but then you've got to start focusing on hitting your apexes through here. 3, 4, 5 flow at you into the inside once again at 4. At every corner getting slower as you hit the apex at turn 5. Turn 6, this awkward right hand, they're pretty much double apex as you work your way towards turn 7. Get it back to the right hand side of the track to open up the corner. Danny not really giving himself too much room and won't again up at turn number 9. Difficult to really see how, or 8 I should say, because turn 9 is this left hander. He'll run towards turn 10 now. And through the kink. Of course, this is flat out, but he wasn't giving himself too much room around that opening sector. Wouldn't be surprised if he's looking to improve on a second lap. Very tight line as well into turn 11, not quite shortening off the exit of the corner to get the better exit. He may be looking for that in the race, but it's working out for him so far. And powering down in towards this hairpin at the end of the straight, I think during the race is going to be where drivers really try and aim for a move, Joe.
Yeah, I think you would be right. It's one of the best overtaking opportunities we saw. Plenty of moves being made down here on Monday, and as we said earlier, Danny's been there and done that. Several others have been there and done that so far this week, but it's definitely a different challenge in these machines. Much more downforce and obviously a lot higher straight line speed for most of these cars. Going well so far for the 55. He's making his way through one of the trickiest corners on the circuit, the double left-hander through turn 14 and 15. before that triple apex right-hander. 180 degrees, left tyres getting kicked in as you make your way around here. It's got to set yourself up nicely to lunge it in through this section here, the fast kind of left hand into the penultimate corner. And yeah, I think Danny is going to be the first man across the line and set a lap time. So we'll see if it's competitive. A little bit far away from the apex there on the final corner, but he won't mind. It's only a short run to the line. Danny Weir crosses the line, does set the first time. It's a 2:08.905. Let's keep our eyes on the Evo guys. See if that one can be beaten.
I, with respect to Danny, would imagine that it is going to be beaten. It didn't look like the fastest lap time, just optically. Of course, that may be inaccurate depending on how many, what drivers can do in that Evo class. He's still standing firm for the time being. Justin Habermacher went for an 8 flat in his Acura, though. Really good lap time from him. Still some good lap times coming in. The likes of Bostock and Bertin Kart have gone well in their respective classes. A few drivers having to set up another lap as Pete Paiva goes to P5. Only 2 seconds off the back of the field. But there we go. Paolo, Tabas, they're setting faster times and they're getting closer to the overall pole lap time.
Of course, lots of opportunities around here to lose your lap time from track limits. Of course, very easy to go wide through the first sector. Very easy to run it off the track at the exit of the hairpin. And of course, in the final corner, somewhere where a lot of these drivers make that mistake. At the moment, though, as we said, it's Justin Habermacher nearly a half a second clear of Mr. Bostock. And let's keep our eyes out for Sadaka Desler, the 108 in the pro class, who was, I think, fastest in both classes at the end of the practice session. So he's got something to live up to at the moment as he makes his way through. I think that's turn 10. Heading down toward 11. That's right on board with us. Who's had not a bad championship so far. Nothing to shout about, sadly, for him. Not inside the top 12 in the Premier standings, but he's definitely had a good couple of sessions in that Acura. Of course, a new machine for him. And if he can replicate that form of practice, then he could get away well at the start of this round.
Yeah, I think a lot of the drivers are going to be hoping to capitalise in this qualifying session and try and get themselves as much of an advantage as they can. This is a prime part of the season to make points work for you. And if you're the championship leaders or championship contenders, this could be a fantastic opportunity. Like if you're Robin Noel Brown, and if you're going a full second clear of anybody else, then that's going to be quite a statement for the rest of the field to try and catch, because that is some lap time. Nearly, I mean, for a moment, he was nearly the only 2:06. On the track, when the next quickest is a 2:08. That's just how quick he's going at the moment.
It is. Here comes Bertin Kat, the only Audi in the championship. He's heading around the final corner for STL Team 1. He's currently in P5 in the Evo class. He does improve his lap time, just not enough to pick up any positions. Pete Paiva next to cross the line in the Premier class, 3 seconds away from pole, drops that margin down to 2.7, and there is Sarika Desler across the line on his first lap time, and it's 6/10 away from the championship leader. Noel Brown just 3/1000ths of a second away from getting himself into the 206s. Jan Osberg currently in P3 in the championship. Here he comes now around the penultimate corner.
Yeah, trying to keep as much momentum as he can up towards the final turn. Keep it off those curbs for a little bit. Just make sure you can get as much momentum and traction off of the tarmac as you can. Through the final corner, same thing. Run to the line on the Swedish driver. Can he improve on his time, which currently puts him in P11? The answer is going to be no, and I think he invalidated that lap time. Disqualified it in some way, because there is no lap time disappeared for Jan at all.
Robin is up in the final sector, I believe, in sector 3 out of 4, so he could be on for an improvement. Let's get this up. I forgot about that one. In fact, no, he's not. That was a complete error, and that is not what you want to see for the championship leader, and he's in the wall, and that, I think, is going to be his. Well, it might not be his qualifying over. He can get in, and I think he can get out for just one more lap, potentially. He might not really feel the need to do that. He does have a 6/10 gap, but of course the track getting warmer, drivers familiarising themselves with the machines in qualifying. That gap could quickly come down though, but at the moment a second separating him from the back of the second row. Quite a big margin. Here comes Bostock then. He'll fancy his chances to get up there with Sarika Desler. can Bostock improve as he crosses the line? It's 3 improved sectors. Surely it's going to put him up the order, unless it was an invalid lap time. In fact, no improvement there. Quick lap. Bostock can go again, though, and try to get that time on the board before the end of the session.
Yeah, it's so tricky to keep lap times, well, A, valid, and B, competitive with so many corners. It's easy to lose time at 1 or 2 of these corners and just not be able to gain it back. On the flip side, you could say that you have the ability to lose, so much time and then gain it back because there are so many corners. So, difficult to see. It's easy to see how drivers are gaining and losing so much time, and why we've got such big margins at some of the tops of the trees. Because if you can gain, a tenth in every single slow speed corner, you're going to find yourself gaining that second over the course of the lap, just by virtue of that. So, impressive to see, but also showing the ability that some of these drivers have and what that can give them in a qualifying section like this.
Yeah, riding on with one of the 3 championship leaders in the team's championship that we have here in Split B, of course. Bobby Trinley over there with Chaz, over on Chaz Draycott Media in the A split. Not quite the qualifying that Robert will be hoping for at the moment. Nearly 4 seconds difference away from him to his class leader, Ryan Abbott. Andy Chell, the championship challenger. The championship challenger, 17 points away from Danny at the moment, down in P9 in the standings. Although Danny just a few cars ahead of him at the moment, the championship leaders not putting on the display that we might have thought they would have in the early stages of qualifying. I say early, they've only got another couple of laps before it's all over. Hussein has brought that lap time down, and he will go on. Noah Brown has come out of the pit lane once again. I think he's either about to cross the line or he's about to start what will be his final laps. Let's keep our eyes on the top of that timing sheet. Noah Brown has crossed over the line. That will be his out lap. Sarika Deslet in the pit lane. At the moment, it's looking good for Noah Brown at the front of the field.
Yeah, for Noah Brown, even with that hit into the wall, he's not going to be overly concerned by the fact that he is leading. And I mean, he's only got 3 competitors within a second of him at the moment. Bostock is, I have to say, not being that competitive in a straight line. I think Fernando Alonso is echoing around the circuit right now, but he may try and go again if possible. It's going to be Klaas Janssen around the final corner. He's a long way down on the lap time. He won't be improving at all. Jan Noj maybe, but in the end he won't be improving either. Andy Chell could be one to maybe pop in a good lap time in the AM class, but no, he won't be setting in a good time either. Quite a few close calls, or actually no, Andy Chell did jump up the order in fact. Quite a few close calls, but not too many improvements at the moment.
Yeah, you're right. Scott Kostrick is just that's off the track there by Robin Aston. It could have been a slight improvement, but not to be on this occasion. Here's one of the tanks making his way around the circuit, currently sharing the grid with Jarmo van der Meer, P12 and P13 in the Premier class. The other Ford, the other Mustang in this field is in P5. That's Ryan Abbott leading the field at the front of the Evo class. And I was going to say, Scott Kostrick, the last man out on track, he will get enough time to put in 1 lap time, I think. He's not quite at the final corner yet. Lap time's obviously around the 207s, 208s. So if you can get there in the next 20 seconds, he should be okay. I think he is going to be fine to set at least 1 lap time. Howarth across the line, though, not an improvement for him. That's his session over in P13. Matthias Eggert is going to be the next driver. We'll ride on board with him for a short while. Noel Brown, in fact, here he comes. The championship leader has been able to set 1 last lap. Purple Sector 1, no improvement. Sector 2 and 3, Dara. Is he going to get it across the line? It doesn't need to, but he might fancy his chances.
Yeah, he wouldn't mind getting an improved lap time. Is he going to be able to scrape himself into the 260s? Wow. He can, on my word, by quite a bit as well. 2 minutes 6.682. There's only one other driver within a second of him. It's incredible pace. Incredible. Yeah,
that really is good, especially after that knock into the wall. Knocking your confidence. That hasn't slowed him down at all. He's come straight back out the pit lane as we thought he might. And he's put over a 6th, 10th gap between him and the entire field. 5.6 seconds away from Lewis Plath down there in P34. Here comes Matthias Eggert in that NSX. Round the quick triple right-hander. Let's see, is it gripping up? It seems okay. A bit tedious on the power. Up into 5th gear. Get it over to the right-hand side and throw it into the left, minding the track limits. You can take quite a bit of curb on that inside, maximise the exit on the right, and now into the final corner. So tricky to get it slowed down and not understeer wide off the track. He's kept it well within track limits. Can Mateus get himself any higher? Yes, he can. From P18 up to P12, I'm sure he'll be happy with that as qualifying nears the end of the session. Scott Kostrick. Oh, well, that was a bit dramatic. Anyway, Scott Kostrick is now coming around turn 14 and turn 15. He, the last man to try and set a lap time.
Yeah, let's see if he can do it. Pretty much a one and done for Scott. We'll see where he can pop himself in the order. Not really anything to compare him to at the moment. Ilma van der Meer, of course, that far down that he's nearly going to take the time to do one lap, as it should to take two. But let's see what Kostrick can do out of the final corner. Can he get himself maybe in towards the top 20 overall? It's going to be one and done for him. Going to be tough to do so. Around the final corner with a little bit of confidence. Where does he go in the end? Where's he going to pop himself into? P17.
17.
Not a bad lap time.
Not bad. No, hey, you took the words out of my mouth, mate. Not a bad lap time at all. So then the grid is set for the first of two 30-minute races here tonight, and we'll shortly run you through the qualifying order for that one as Robin Noah Brown leads the way ahead of Sarah Cadesla. So he's got a nice break in between him and any one of his rivals. And I've just realised, Dara, that I don't think we're in the company of Mr. Adcock tonight.
No, I don't think we are. I think we are short of a few drivers. Not too sure why. People might be busy tonight. They may have plans to kick off February, but it means that it's a good opportunity for these guys who'll make the starting grid.
Absolutely right, and let's run through that now before the guys set off on their, well, it's about a third of a lap here at COTA, thankfully not the full thing. So Robin Noah Brown does what he had to do, starts at the head of the field with a time of a 2:06.682, which is best part of 7/10 clear of anybody else. He'll share the front row of the grid alongside the 108 of Hussein Sarah Cadesla, the Suma team, sister team, should I say, doing well at the front. The Porsche and the NSX drivers will lead off the line ahead of Liam Fraser and Robin Aston, who share row 2. Ryan Abbott will lead the way in the Evo Class P5 overall, ahead of Justin Habermacher inside the top 6. It'll be Clyde Veyer ahead of James Bostock on row 4, ahead of Mark van Mulken and Klaas Janssen inside the top 10. It'll be Jan Osberg and Matthias Eggert inside the top 12, with the second Evo driver all the way down there in P13. He starts ahead of Rob Gregg on row 7. Then it's Jarmo van der Meer and James Howarth ahead of Scott Kostrick and James Pallow, the top 18, with Rob Mackay and Bertin Kat rounding out the top 20. Steen Schiesby and Danny Weir there in row 11, ahead of Adam Baker and Maxim Dimitrov. Anthony Flamel and Austin Grave on the position 26, ahead of Andy Chell, Jan Naj, Wesley Van Ren, Pete Paeva, Andrea Muntin and Gareth Newton, the top 32. And then it's Daniel Poole, Robert Savage and Lewis Plath, the last to set a qualifying time, with Nicky Mehring, the Alpha 1 Esports South African driver, failing to qualify, starting at the back of the grid in P36.
18 rows worth of drivers to get this race underway. It's going to be very, very deep. I know we're used to 50 plus cars on a Monday night. We don't have quite those numbers here, but it's still going to be busy. And with everybody in the same machinery, if you go down the order, it's not just going to be as easy to muck your way out of a hairpin onto a straight and just fly past the cars around you. You're going to have to work for these moves. And I think the drivers at the front will know that. And of course, with the races that we're going to have tonight, I think teams and, particularly the drivers are going to be concerned about making sure they get through the first race scot-free, because of course with the reverse grid coming in for race 2, they can't afford to start from the back of the grid. They've got to stay pretty much near the front in the opening half an hour, and that's I think what they're going to be targeting. Yeah,
I think as we alluded to earlier, these guys have got to be really cautious about those track limits. Of course, 17 they're allowed before a drive-through penalty, and that's not what you want to start the second race. You've got to be so careful in the early phases while the car's coming up to temperature, not to get collision points, but then once the race settles in, it's so easy to pick up those small 1Xs here and there, and a handful of them could see you serving a drive-through. So let's hope that that doesn't happen for many of these drivers. Something would tell me it'll happen to at least one of them. But let's see who that might end up being. Then it'll be Robin Noah Brown, who has a bit of a long run down toward the start-finish line. Of course, actually, it's the start line. It's not the finish line in this case. The field will bunch up. Sarika Desla is there on the outside waiting to go. He will get the green flag soon. He can drop the hammer before the start line. He's gone, and he's kind of caught Sarika Desla napping as such. He's going to have to defend straight over to the left-hand side. Goes Sarika Desla in his defence of Liam Fraser as all the drivers now make their way through turn 1. Looks as though the mid-pack has got through okay. Here come the Evo drivers, three wide there. Between Shisby, who's that? Jarmo van der Meer is round behind the sign. The leaders at the front of the race have got away okay. Rob Mackay losing a position to Dean Shisby, but Noel Brown leads the race at the front quite cleanly at the start.
I think Bert Ten Kart was one of the drivers that we may have seen get caught up in an incident just about in the foreground of the shot coming out of turn number 1. There were a few drivers that found themselves spinning and not facing the right direction. Jarmo van der Meer, one of them in his Mustang, and he's already out of this race, so he will have to start from the back of the grid in race number 2. Danny Weir looking to try and make moves. Championship leader in the Evo class, maybe not getting the best of runs out of turn number 9. Through 10, he won't really have a chance, and into 11, he may have a go at Sheesby. As you can make a bit of a send at the hairpin. We'll see it up in front, though. Paolo looking for a move. I think he's going to go through. That could have even been Eggert and Kostrick. But actually, Danny was under pressure, and Rob Mackay, he just steams on the outside of him.
Yeah, I don't think Danny would have put up too much of a fight there for his teammate in the Premier class, so he would let Rob by. I'm not sure what the qualifying pace was between those two guys, but those two will be communicating in the background. He might even think about letting Adam Baker through, but Danny's got to be careful. He's got Jan Naj in behind him in his class. Meanwhile, P2, 3 and 4, Burton Cat, James Pallow and Sander Tabbers are right up there in P15 in the field. So Danny's got to get a move on, try and stay within touching distance of those three drivers. Andrea Mundian has been passed up the inside by Gareth Newton. Two NSXs going side by side. Got to be careful. Matthias Eggert, he's had an incident. Where is he? Spinning around in the background somewhere. He's dropped down toward the back of the field. Same can be said for Justin Habermacher. 7 positions lost for him off the start.
Yeah, not the best of starts for Habermacher. I think there's a couple of drivers who'll be ruining opportunities off the line. Round as well away. He's really not cleared like Sarika at all. They have got William Fraser and Ryan Abbots, who, mind you, of course, having that fantastic start in the Evo class. Tyus Eggert having to come into the pit lane, that rear end not looking as it should for the German, and he will have to come down road and make pits up that he really would want to take. He's going to be starting right towards the back of the field in the second race. Either way, really, he's not going to have a choice.
No, we're riding on with the leaders now at the moment. It's Sarika Desla chasing down the sister driver of Robin Noel Brown. Of course, we said quite a few times already that Sarika Desla had the pace over the entire field in the practice session. Wasn't quite close enough to pip Noel Brown at the front of qualifying, but these two guys definitely the pace leaders at the moment as we enter the first stage of this race. Sarika Desla, we've seen, not shy of putting a move on. If he can get a good exit here, we could see a move for the lead going into turn 12. Doesn't look like he got the exit that he would have hoped for. Noel Brown pulled away there under traction quite well. Liam Fraser is still there or thereabouts, and behind as they come over the crest, but I think so far it's going to be a 2-horse race for the opening round at least. The gaps in behind. Ryan Abbott's sensibly not getting involved too much with these Premier drivers at the start of this race.
Yeah, doing a good job at the moment. Getting himself involved in that reverse is going to be crucial at the moment. Nobody else in his class will be. So it's looking really good for Ryan Abbott. He can really manage the pace at the moment. James Pallow finding a way with being cheated down into turn 12. And so I mean, it's Abbott's trying to. Well, actually, it was Scott Cosby on the inside. Tabbers was kind of involved in it as well. We'll see it again. But it just became 3 into 1 not going. And Scott Cosby was trying to make a bit of a move here. Oh, no, it was Tabbers, my bad. Tabbers just a little bit clumsy, but love it comes in himself well, and these things do happen.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one, of course. Shisby will have had his eyes fixed on Pallow making the move up the inside, and then he won't have considered that somebody else might have got into frame. And then, of course, before you know it, it's too late. Bad mic again, so I'm going to keep an eye on that as we go. Massive bunch up here between Grave, Baker, Weir and Chell. This is an interesting battle between Danny Weir and Andy Chell, who's going to fancy putting a move on his championship rival. They won't care too much that they're not battling at the front of the order. They'll just care about being in front of one another. So an interesting battle for these two. Out of position somewhat, mincing it in that midfield, but a little championship battle going on in that mid-pack between these two drivers. Let's see how long it takes Chell to put a move on the 55.
I hope I'm not sounding too bad. I know there's not really anything I can do, but Andy Shell looking like he is doing a good job at the moment. Danny Weir, Adam Baker just in front, Austin Graff in this train as well. Jan Noj and Wesley Van running behind. Could he mean that this is a battle that continues on for a long time in this race? You can see how tight the entire field is, even between the pros and the premiers and the evos at the moment, which is great to see. It looks like there isn't too much of a big gap between all of them. But for the time being, at least everyone's being relatively calm, and you would expect that early on in the opening race when people know that there is a reverse grid to get sorted, and if they drop down now, they're going to be dropping down for the second race as well.
Absolutely right. I'm just trying to troubleshoot as we go on. The gap at the front. Something's happened to Sarika Dazzler. He's fallen down the order. Let's see where it went wrong for Huss. Here it is. I think it might be a move by Liam Fraser, potentially. No, we can see Hussein ahead. Nowhere near enough for Fraser. Has he just dropped it? Yes, he has. Look, he's snapped on the entry, so the exit of the penultimate corner. And Hussein in the barrier there, having to rejoin, very difficult for him. So that's his chance at a race victory over for this evening. Rejoins in behind. I think that was James Howarth down there. Sarika Dazzler inside, just outside the top 10. But not what you want to see from a man who showed so much good pace. Let's ride on board with this battle for a little while, Dara, as I try and troubleshoot what could be going wrong.
Yeah, nice to see Andy being able to be in this battle. Of course, I think Automat will be hoping for a few points to gain throughout the rest of this race, particularly in their aspirations for the team championship, not just in this, but in the A split as well. So, big team effort incoming in the final 4 rounds of the season as we enter the final 3 weeks. But Andy at the moment trying to snap around on Danny Weir. Of course, Danny, even though he's 23rd overall at the moment, he is still P5 in class and some big points to be won. The issue is for Andy Shell that just in behind him is Jan Noj, and Noj of course in the same class. We've got William Van and Pete Paiva just in behind that as well. Newton and Muntian, the 2 Acuras, also in the Evo class, are sitting just inside our top 30. It is good to see that we have a tightening of the battles. A lot of teams and drivers happy, I'm sure, with where they are. A few that will be definitely hoping to gain away a little bit throughout the rest of this race. Someone who won't be too displeased with where they are, the likes of Clyde Vela in P5 in his Ferrari, Mark Van Milken as well, towards the front of the field, and James Bostock in P6. But with Ryan Abbott's leading the way in the Evo class in P3 in the 25, I'm sure he'll be happy to be continuing onwards. We are at the stage of the season and of the race, early stages of the race, but in the stage of the season where drivers know that points are prizes, they can't afford too many issues. And I think definitely it's going to be a part of the championship where drivers may look back on, may reflect by the end of the season and, say this is where it was won, this is where it was lost, because it's going to be fresh in the memory in only a few weeks' time, and if you can make big gains or losses, then that's going to be almost accentuated by the time we get to the finale in just a few weeks' time. Yeah,
you're totally right, Dara. I appreciate you filling in there. I made a critical error in that moment there, trying to fix what was going wrong. So bear with us, everybody. We'll be back on trackside very shortly. We're nearly back in the session, and we are back in the session, and we catch Jelmer van der Meer. Well, I'll not show him that because that was a little bit unfortunate for him there. Let me just get back in control and then we'll cut back to trackside. I've tried to do what I can to bring as much resource back here. I think we're safe to cut to trackside. And sadly, there's not too much more I can do to resolve this if it keeps going on. It is on my end, I'm pretty sure. So apologies for that. I think what I've done might help, but if not, then it'll be something that we have to investigate maybe during the break. For now, though, battles still continue. Clyde Veer's doing pretty well toward the front. He's got Bostock putting him under pressure, though, and James has actually made his way through the field quite nicely. at the moment. Not quite able to get past the Ferrari at the moment. Only 10 minutes gone in this race. It feels like we've seen so much action so far. There's been a big issue for Jan Osberg and Rob Gregg in that interim. Let's see. Oh, never mind. Let's just stay alive for now. And we're right on board with Sarah Kadesla, who has got the pace, Dara, to get himself through the field. We know that. And now he's got a challenge on his hand in the final 20 minutes.
Yeah, let's see what Sarah Kadesla can do. Of course, Hayworth just in behind him, but trying to move his way back forward. He was in a fantastic position, now dropping back, of course. And the Turkish driver looking, I think, to get himself maybe a few more points on the board. Won't be thinking about the reverse grid just yet. We've still got nearly 20 minutes to go in this opening race of the evening. So he's got more than enough time to try and work his way back towards at least the top 5. And that will be an absolute target, there's no doubt about that. For him, Rob Gregg standing in his way just for the time being, and then it'll be Jan Osberg. But that little gap of about 3 seconds will be, if he can get back there, a couple of, or a few laps where he can just try and push and find a little bit of rhythm, find a little bit of time. That would be interrupted if he was to reach the top, well, the battle for P4. But for the time being, I think he's going to be content with where he is, and content that he's still inside the top 10, because things have maybe gone a little bit awry, but they could have gone far worse for him, and he's still definitely going to be in contention for a reverse grid, whatever the position.
Right, we're back in motion. I appreciate the patience and the support. It's a bit of a nightmare, all the screens that I've got going on in front of me, but you can never really rely on technology. I think we'll be good to go. Dean Shisby, the man putting him under pressure ahead at the moment. I'm not going to cut back to replays. That seemed to cause a bit of an issue before. And sadly, we've missed another issue for Danny Weir, who was in the battle with Andy Chell, and then he was passed, and now he's down in P8. So a fight on Danny's hands here, well outside the order for that reverse grid for the second race, but he's got to keep his head down, try and do what he can. In class, it's P8, so it's still pretty good points if you can hang on. Andrea Muntian, though, he's inside the top 5 in their championship as well, so he's no slouch when it comes to GT3 racing, and he will know where Danny is in the standings, and he will fancy his chances at getting past the championship leader. That's kind of the burden that you put on yourself. It's all well and good to lead a championship, but everybody else knows that that's you as well, and they kind of want to put you under a little bit more pressure.
Yeah, they want to make sure that you are not finding it easy and not having an easy time of it. Oh, Sarah Kadesla and Greg look like they're swapping positions momentarily as well. Danny Weir still under pressure, though, as he runs his way down here towards turn 12. Will be able to single file his way through the heavy braking zone and hit the apex and run the racing line, but it's not going to be the most comfortable of evenings for him at the moment. Of course, far away from the reverse grid, just trying to finish in a good position, to start in a good position for race number 2. But quite a ways to try and work his way up the order, particularly in the class if he wants to keep himself in the championship lead tonight. Of course, coming into this race, he had that lead of only a few points, but to the likes of Shell, who were doing a little bit better than him tonight. So it's going to be close! Oh no, it's Greg and Sarah Kadesla. Oh, they come together and they get into the wall.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't think that was going to happen, and then all of a sudden it did. That's Sarah Kadesla back into the pit lane. I'm not really sure what Rob could have done. I'm going to test the replay and hopefully it works. Yeah, we're good. So we can see Rob's on the apron. He moves over. Sarah Kadesla slowly making his way to the right-hand side of the track. Doesn't leave him any room and gets put in the barrier for good measure. So sadly, that's Sarah Kadesla's night over. Dean Shisby, he's had another issue toward the back of the field as well. So not good for him either. Rob Gregg and Sarah Kadesla both in the pit lane. So both drivers involved in that collision have reset it out of this race. Robin Aston and James Bostock inside the top 4 in their class. Great haul of points at the moment for the Kame GP2 team. I'd be surprised if we saw a big move coming on from Bostock unless they communicate that he has the pace, of course. Big gaps ahead at the moment. Robin O'Brien checking out of this race already. 6 seconds clear of Liam Fraser in P2. Ryan Abbott's sitting pretty at the top of the Evo class. He's got absolutely no one in range. P2 in that class. Burton Cat, P12 on the circuit, Dara. So he's having an absolutely fantastic night so far.
And I think for Ryan, he's going to be I mean, loving life. I mean, he's in such a good position right now as we do see battling going on towards turn 12. This is Andy Schell fighting away. He's going to be trying to get to the outside, well, to the inside line, but he's going to have to stick with the outside line for the time being as they make the way into the corner. Careful of Danny Ware in the background. He's braking a little bit too late, but will avoid everybody in front of him. Shell's going to be able to keep the position overall to the inside of turn 13. Maybe a little bit of contact, nearly a little bit of contact. They just about make their way through. And Jan Noj looking to try and put his way up the order as well. Danny Weir getting very much involved in the background as well, nearly going for a move at turn 15, not happening there. And as we pass the half distance of this opening race, it is getting very much close between quite a few of the drivers back here in the Evo class.
Yeah, it's been a very exciting race, and to think we've only just crossed over the halfway point is pretty crazy. I'd be interested to see how the incident points are going on, because it has been quite a feisty opening so far. Something tells me that Dean, sadly, might be on the border of that penalty, because he's had another incident, which will be a minimum 2x or a 4x potentially, so Dean could be on the border of serving that drive-through. So let's keep our eyes on if he enters into the pit lane. Jarmo van der Meer has been passed under blue flags, so he's down there. Where is he? At the back of the field, just coming through the end of sector 1, I believe now is Jarmo. Yeah, and all the while, Andy Schell up into P5. It's looking good for him so far. Sander Tabber's quite a way up the road, so Andy just has to do what he can at the moment to stay put. And here's Robin Aston. We were just talking about how well the Camry cars were doing, and oh no, it's not teammates, is it? Surely it's not teammates coming together. Let's ride on board with James Bostock. Fingers crossed Robin just goes off the road by himself. Yes, he does. He has a wobble. That was a very slow one, an interestingly slow one there for Robin Aston, who just kind of drove himself off the circuit there.
Your rear end can very easily step out at turn 9, to be fair. It's, off camber, uphill slightly, trying to get the power down. The car can almost lift, the load reduces, and so it's a little bit tricky to keep it on all 4 wheels, and with the amount of traction that you're trying to put into the car, it can be tricky, and I think we're just about seeing a little bit of that, a little bit of a moment there, and it pushing the car wide. You don't really want to be spinning yourself into the wall, so just kind of accepting the wide moment is the best way to go about it, and that's exactly what we have just seen. But yeah, that's the kind of racing that the drivers have to deal with at the moment. They have to be wary of how the car feels, and they can't really afford to be pushing so hard that they make those big mistakes. And that they're on their toes enough that if they feel the car starting to go, they can recover it somewhat. So good recovery there.
Yeah, great drive here from James Howarth as well, who looked like he got some mega traction through that fast triple right-hander toward the end of the lap. 16, 17 and 18. Gained a heap load of time on Jan Osberg, so that could be setup related, of course. Jan might have gone for a slightly less downforce setup. A little bit wobbly there through the S's by Howarth, but he's got his eyes set on that Porsche ahead to try and get himself inside the top 6, of course. 4.5 second gap ahead to the top 5, so it really is a battle at the moment between these two, and Justin Abermacher is about as far back from those two as Howarth is from the Porsche of Rosberg ahead, so he will be wanting to get ready for an opportunity. If Howarth makes a move potentially into one of these heavy braking zones, Abermacher could really look to close that gap. As he does late on the brakes, when we get back on the power though, the gap will pick up. But a great little fight here for the position inside the top 6 of the Premier class. Let's keep our eyes on Howarth as he goes on throughout the session. Jan Naj and Klaas Janssen have had an issue as well, so things really starting to become a little bit difficult for some of these drivers, of course. Such a tricky track in many different respects, whether it's the S section, the straight line sections, of course, and the tyres can really take a beating around this place. The S's are bad enough for that. The 180 right-hander at the end of the lap is bad enough for that. And even this section, with the amount of differing lines that people take through here, it's no wonder that we're seeing quite a few of these guys exploring the runoffs, and some of them having a couple of spins for good measure.
Yeah, lucky really that the runoffs here are wide, and also there's a lot of tarmac before you get to any kind of gravel. But also the fact that we do have some gravel, it's not just tarmac straight into the wall like we see at Middle Eastern circuits these days. I do really like this circuit. Everything about it is fantastic for racing. It encourages drivers to push, but will punish them if they do push too hard. And yeah, there's a little bit of bite to it, and that's what you don't necessarily get with newer build circuits. Of course, this circuit only broke ground in the last 15 years, so it's a very new circuit. But with the designs you'd expect from Hermann Tilke, another very, very good circuit to go racing at, and one that I think we'll be going to for a very long time. Not just in the worlds of top-level motorsport in real life, but also in the sim, because it does provide us with some great races, and we're seeing a little bit of that so far in the opening 20 minutes today. Yeah,
I was going to say, in terms of top-level motorsport, let's say, I think this is the one for me that Formula One should always arrive at. I think we've just about, in my personal opinion, we've hit the cusp of how many American circuits we need involved in the calendar, but this one should always be in there. I think the vibe might be slightly different over in the A split, because I'm pretty sure that Mr. Draycott has a particular hatred of this circuit, for whatever reason that is, so his impression of this might not be as fond as ours is, but it's, yeah, well, that's boding well for the Mustang, of course, on home soil. James has got to do it proud. That beefy engine, as we call it. You could call it anything, really. Skyscraper, a tank. It's probably going to get past that Porsche in a matter of corners here. It's been putting him under pressure for the last couple of laps, and I think we're about to see a move very deep on the inside line. Rosberg has done so well to make that really tricky for him. He has got it slowed down. He's left the room on the inside. Great move by Howarth, but Rosberg is going to have the inside line covered nicely by the Mustang, and that is exactly how you want to get that move done. Wasn't put off by the Porsche, forcing him to that tight inside line, and even though he had that inside line again, came over in good time. And in fact, look at that, Habermacher has done exactly what we thought. He's waited for the opportunity and picked up one of those places as Rosberg now down into P8. James Howard, the beneficiary of that, and he's got a bit of free air to try and get into, but with just 8.5 minutes to go, overturning a 5-second gap into the top 5 will, I think, be quite a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely will be. I think James can be content with where he sits. Of course, P7 overall would get a very good starting position for race number 2, and with a decent chunk of points as well to his name before we even get into that race. I think he's going to be delighted. James Bostock trying to make sure that he can make a move on Ryan Abbott's and make sure that he will be in P3. I think there was a wide moment just in the background. I'm not too sure who that was for, actually. I think it was for Mark Van Mulken. It could have been down into turn 1 with the lap car getting involved, but actually it wasn't Van Mulken, was it? Oh no, it was Van Mulken. Oh, goodness me, Joe. Van Mulken going wide in the background, allowing one of the lap cars through, but that won't worry him too much.
No, you're right, and it's great for Bostock to get himself back. Well, he was already in a podium position, but now he's in the top 3 on the circuit, of course, inside the top 7 in the championship so far. And as we said earlier, only one podium so far this season. That came 2 weeks ago in the 5th round, so he'll be very pleased if he can get back on that step and bring in some great points, of course. Not the best night so far for his teammate, who we saw sadly taking the trip off the circuit to the right-hand side. Of course, it's Bostock, Ludbrook and Aston, the 3 drivers as part of the Kame GP2 setup. So at the moment, James is the man bringing home those points. Robin Aston out of the race so far, and I don't think that John Ludbrook is in the session, so it's him on his own here to try and score points for the Kame team as they attempt to keep up with Veraco Esports ahead, but just inside the top 15 in the standings. I don't think it'll be too many eyes on that championship. More probably the Drivers' Championship. Still an opportunity for James to really get inside the top 3 potentially. He's not too far behind. He's only 69 points behind Rosberg, with hundreds and hundreds of points left up for grabs in these final 4 races. I think he might fancy his chances if he can get a good run of form in.
Yeah, I think he would as well. I mean, he was really good towards the back end of last season in the GT4s, particularly when he was driving the car. Clyde Veyer, the Maltese driver, going out nearly all the way to Africa there on the outside of the final corner, just about keeping it in the Mediterranean, it seems. But he will be behind Ryan Abbott's now as he looks to try and work his way through the order. Abbott's, though, a driver that, I wouldn't be too surprised if he doesn't fight these ones too hard. I mean, yes, he will pick up the points for the win. He'd equally pick up all the points for the win in the AM class, in the Evo class, if he finished in P9 overall. So this is going to be an interesting thing, or interesting ending to the race, and just see how Ryan Abbott plays it. If he's thinking about race 2, we'll just focus on getting the best position overall for race 1.
Yeah, and as we've seen before, it was around Long Beach, wasn't it? The leader in the Evo class dropping a couple of places to get a better start for race 2. Of course, being inside the top 4 for Abbott, so it would be a hell of a lot to drop any more places. He would have to lose so much race time. But while Vela there was just driven off the circuit a little bit in his attempt to get past the Mustang, it wouldn't bode well for Abbott to defend too hard when he knows he's not going to lose any points. He'll gain a place at the start of the second round, at the second race. So all in all, doesn't matter for him too much. Like I said, it's Burton Cat and James Pallow currently in P10 and 11 on the circuit, bearing in mind Abbott's P4 on the circuit. So he's got 5 drivers in between himself and his next class rival, so he can afford to come off the power just a little bit and try and make sure that he keeps it in a straight line, doesn't get tagged by Clyde making his way through. And of course, Clyde will fancy getting on the back of Bostock before it's too late. If he makes a mistake ahead, then the Ferrari will fancy getting by and getting himself on the podium. Still lots to play for, only 4.5 minutes to go, of course, but anything can happen around here. The tyres will be starting to struggle, and especially through a section like this, so much force on that left-hand side of the car, it'll be difficult for these guys to manage that in the latter stages of the race. Rob Mackay, I think, has just been passed by Scott Kostrick, potentially, in his efforts to stay inside the top 10. The closest battle that we have on track. This will probably continue for the next 2, maybe 3 laps.
Yeah, that's all we've got left, really, is the as we cross the line. I think we may only get to. Robin O'Brien should be able to control when this race ends here, as we see one of the lap cars coming down into pit lane. But I really do think Robin L. Brown can keep this to 2 laps. If he wants to go for a third, you know, knock yourself out, go for a third, but he can absolutely control the pace and maybe keep this at 2 laps. The likes of Rob Mackay wouldn't mind it being 3, give him more chances to fight with Scott Kostrick, who is trying to make his way up to turn 1 behind a couple of the Evo drivers for the time being. I think that's Bertrand Cut just in the front of the picture. James Pallow here in the McLaren in behind, and Scott Kostrick just trying to work his way through for an important position, mind you, because he is currently in P12 overall, I should say. So he is trying to work his way into the top 10, which is going to be oh so crucial. And Pallow and Tenkada currently in his way of maybe get onto the reverse grid pole here.
Yeah, so much at stake for these 3 drivers at the moment. As you say, if Scott Kostrick can get inside the top 10, that is great news for his standings, and of course, good news potentially for Robin Noel Brown to have his teammate at the front of the grid. They can maybe coordinate the race start a little bit, and of course, if it comes to it, then Kostrick may not come up with too much of a defence. But of course, James Pallow has to now consider the Premier driver in behind him, not to get caught up in that battle, but also he can't allow Burton Cat to get away down the road in his fight for not only P2, but also reverse grid pole. This is going to be one hell of a good battle for the next lap and a half. God, I just hope none of these drivers end up off the road, but so much at stake. An extra couple of points, but I think these guys will be really more eyes on that reverse spot than the extra points that you get from P3 to P2.
Yeah, I really think that's going to be more of the case, because the amount of by starting towards the front of the field is what I'm trying to say. By starting at the front of the field gets you so much more opportunity in that second race. That Pallow and Bertrand Cut aren't just fighting, as you kind of say, over those couple of points, but they really are fighting over the chance to maybe get some big points and get themselves into a good position for their championship and not really have to feel like they're under pressure too much. Getting away at the front of the field as well protects them from any incidents behind. It could be a really big factor in their seasons, as Rob Mackay has difficulty off of the final corner. We've got 1 minute 30 to go. This could be their last lap. It could be their penultimate lap, but Kostrick needs to get through on Pallow now if he wants to have any hope of getting after 10 card in the Audi.
Well, let's just double check that as these guys make their way around the final corner. Robin Noel Brown already halfway through this lap, so of course it depends when he crossed the line. I don't see the white flag, so we will have this lap and then one more. Maxim Dimitrov had a bit of a trip, I think, into the barrier earlier, although that car does look okay as things stand. And it's Burton Cat then who has managed to suppress that initial pressure in behind from James Pallow. He's got himself a little bit of a buffer now to try and secure that P2, and as we said, more importantly, that reverse grid. I don't think Bert started on the front row so far this season, so it would be good to have the Audi, the only Audi in the field, leading the line ahead for the second race. Look at that gap 10.5 seconds to Robin Noel Brown. He's been really in a class of his own the last couple of weeks, leading the championship. It looked pretty tight between him and Adcock for most of the season. Now, though, with Adcock not here tonight and dropping the round last week, it's looking like well, he's got one hand on the trophy, hasn't he, in some sense, Mr. Noel Brown. Only 10 seconds to go. Noel Brown will, we will set off on one final lap. Just could have been very close. If he backed off a couple of seconds earlier in the lap prior, then we might not be here. One more to go then before we bring home the points. Andy Muntian and Matthias Eggert, the closest drivers on the track, with an interesting little bunch up here going at the turn 12.
I'm really surprised that Robin didn't shorten off the race there. He's, he's risking going the extra lap. Something could go wrong in the final lap. He had it under control, but hey, he wants to do it. It means that there's going to be more opportunity for the drivers in behind. Eggert, Baker, Munti, and all in this train trying to make moves as they go through the corner. There's contact. Eggert, oh no, there's big contact. And whether we go one more lap or not, this would have happened anyway. The likes of people ever going around Daniel Poole getting a couple of positions, but yeah, big moments for Pete Paiva, and he's not going to be happy in that triple one.
Yeah, it was a big bunch up as they headed into turn 12. Heavy braking zone offline a little bit for Eggert, and then I think it's the blue car ahead, slow on the exit. Now we're a little bit too far back for this one, I think, but we'll continue on. Nonetheless, it's always tricky when you've got so many cars in front going too wide in some cases. Then you arrive at such a tricky corner like this, and all of a sudden, before you know it, there's a car spinning in front of you, and you have absolutely no time to react. That was the case for Eggert there. Sadly for Pete Paiva, who now has to enter the pit lane. Jan Naj going side by side with another Porsche of Anthony Flamel out of class through the first sector. Robin Noel Brown, though, he's done exactly what he needed to do once again. He'll start from P10 in the second race, but so far so good for the 1-2 when he's got around a couple more corners, and then he'll bring home the checkered flag.
It's been a great drive from Robin Noel Brown. He's really controlled it from the front of the field, not looked at under pressure, particularly after Sarika Dessler dropped down the field, but he's going to be starting a little bit more in the mid-pack for race number 2. He's going to have to fight his way through, and that's not something he's had to do in the first race tonight.
No, he does not, and here he comes then. He takes the flag. I'm looking at the timing sheet. We've got a very interesting battle, I think, going on at a different part of the circuit, and it's just happened. I'm going to have to cut to it. Danny Weir. Oh no, Danny got past Andy, and they've both driven off the circuit. The two championship rivals in the Evo class going wheel to wheel in the final sector here. Danny did get the move done into the braking zone at 12, but then he's given the place up again, and Andy Charles gone around the outside to retake that place. Points good enough for P5 on offer here, so it's been a great recovery from Danny initially. Liam Fraser and James Bostock have taken the checkered flag in P2 and P3, but we'll continue to ride on board with these two as they finish. I think that's going to be it. I don't think Danny is going to be able to get one up on Andy unless he goes off the circuit here a little bit wide, but he's going to keep it on the tarmac. It was such a good opportunity for Danny. He won't be too disappointed knowing that it's damage limitation, but what an opportunity that was for Danny to recover some late points there toward the end of the race.
Yeah, good attempt. Sadly for Danny not coming off. I think Andy defended beautifully there, though. Danny just making that little mistake down into turn 12, meaning that he couldn't really keep the move on. Good defense, though, from, it's very much fair to say, from Andy Shell. Knew that Danny was going to look for a move down the inside into turn 15 and shut the door on that one, not allowing the 55 any kind of sniff. But, you know, good race between them towards the end. It's just a shame for them that they're going to be a long way behind the likes of Bert Den Kart, who's going to start on pole position for race 2.
Yeah, here's how it was done then. A little jink. Look at that great move by Danny from the left to the right and then back over to the left on the inside, but he just outbrakes himself a little bit. They both go off the circuit and rejoin, and then Danny is the fortunate one who ends up on that inside line. Let's go back to that one again and see it from Danny's on board. Andy knows what's going to happen. Moves over to the inside line. Danny fills one mirror, fills the other mirror, then gets it late on the brakes, but too late for both of them, really. Andy sees what is going to happen, doesn't turn in the normal way, lets him through. The battle continues. We saw this part. Great battle between championship rivals there. Clean as well, albeit they both went off the circuit, but at least they've crossed the line. It was Ryan Abbott who led Burton Cat and James Powell the top three inside the Evo class, and that has set us up for what will be one hell of a feisty race in the second round coming up just after a short warm-up. And yeah, we'll run through the finishing order very shortly.
A 34-minute race in the end. Overall, after Lewis Plath finishes the race, but a lot of drivers getting some good points for their championship, but I think a few of them wouldn't mind getting a little bit higher up, but that's what the second race of the evening is going to be for.
A little comment there in the chat, Danny. He knows that he had the chance, but at least, Danny, you kept it in a straight line and brought home some good points. So then, we'll bring you the results from the Premier Division in this GT3B split. So it's Robin O'Brien, another commanding victory for the championship leader. He finished 10 seconds clear of Liam Fraser, the 174 Moonshiners Racing Club. James Bostock, his second podium of the season. Disaster for his teammate early on, who finished right down there at the back of the field. Those two were riding high as we crossed the halfway point, but in the end, it was Bostock, the single man for the Cammy GP2 team, who brings home good points in P3. Clyde Veer and Mark Valmunken will round out the top 5. James Howarth in the end did get inside the top 6 ahead of Jan Osberg. Justin Habermacher in P7. Jan Osberg P8. Scott Kostrick and Rob Mackay inside the top 10. Klaas Janssen, Maxime Dimitrov, Austin Grave, Anthony Flamel and Dean Sheesby the top 15 ahead of Adam Baker, Matthias Eggert, Hussein Sarika Desler finishing on the lead lap in the end. It will be Pete Paeva and Rob Gregg who score points, and sadly for Jarmo van der Meer, the only driver who finished in a pretty decent position, won't score points outside of the top 20 ahead of Robin Aston, who didn't finish the race at all and therefore, of course, won't score points.
A little bit of a smaller field over in the Evos, but it was Ryan Abbots who commandingly won the race, was in the lead from start to finish for the Evo class, but we'll have a little bit of fighting to do with Bert Ten Kart in race 2. After Ten Kart finished 10th overall, second in the class, but will start from pole position in the second race this evening. Ten Kart did have to hold off James Pallow, though, the man from Jersey, keeping him honest inside the top 3. Sander Tabers and Andy Schell were 4th and 5th, with championship leader Danny Weir not able to overtake his championship rival Schell, and he finished down in P6. It was Andre Muntian and Jan Nodge, Gareth Newton and Daniel Poole rounding out the top 10, and the only other drivers within a minute of the race winner. Wesley Van Ren, Robert Savage and Lewis Plath were inside the top 13, all on the lead lap for Nicky Meering. 3 laps down in the end. It remains to be seen whether he'll pick up points. Not a good evening starter either way for the South African.
There we go then. So we have a couple of moments worth of warm-up left to go. 2.5 minutes before the drivers get underway for the second round. Of course, reverse top 10, 30 minutes again, so pretty similar, well, in fact, exactly the same as we've just had with the complexion of those guys in that reverse order. So we'll run through the grid once we get there, Dara, but for now, we've got Burton Cat and Robin Noel-Brown out on the circuit, 2 drivers who've done pretty well in their respective classes, and they look like they want to keep up that form, don't want to warm down, they just want to keep going and continue on into the second race, which is really what race winners do. They don't need the break, they just keep going, stay in the form, and fingers crossed they'll get another strong result.
I mean, some of them may just be able to, have a couple of minutes, maybe get themselves a cup of tea, something like that, get themselves a nice flask before we get into race 2. Another couple of them are definitely using the time to their advantage, as we are seeing Bert out onto the circuit in the car that, of course, is Dutch from one side, French from the other. It was always funny. We were talking about this, actually, I think on the Daytona 24 broadcast, Joe, about how some liveries do look not necessarily as they intended. I think it was a Hungarian team that looked a little bit Italian, for one. But, you know, it's nice to see Bert having a flag livery on the car. It just maybe worked from one side better than the other. Yeah,
well, you know, I respect him nonetheless for picking the Audi. I love it when people go away from the norm, of course. Not too many BMWs part of the championship, just one of those on the circuit tonight. Too many Porsches, that's obviously the easy choice. I can't talk because that's what I normally drive. But always good to see someone going away from the norm. Of course, no Lamborghinis or Corvettes at all in this championship. Sadly, over on the A-split, I think they've got at least one of every machine, which is always good to see. Fingers crossed we get a little bit more of a difference next season, but yeah, you can't blame them for going with the Mercedes and the Porsche in most cases in this championship. Noel Brown about to cross the line, heading around the final corner, but he's only going to have 15 seconds. By the time he reaches turn 1, it's That's going to be session over, and we're going to be good to go once again for 30 minutes more.
Looking forward to seeing who's going to be able to get as many points as they can in that second 30-minute race. Of course, as we've been talking about, big evening for the championship overall tonight. And that second race is going to be the main opportunity for a lot of the drivers to keep themselves very much in contention for the championship, particularly in the Evo class. They want to position themselves well for the final 3 weeks, and getting yourself a good result here in race 2 is going to be going a long way to getting yourself towards a championship challenge in the last few weeks of February.
Very good. Well, let's bring up the grid and we'll run through the order for this feature race. And Dara, I'll hand this one over to you.
Yeah, looking forward to this race and looking forward to seeing who's going to be able to take... Did you say I could take this?
Of course.
This grid, Joe. I looked away. Sorry, I looked away for a second there. I didn't. I missed that. But it will be Andy Chell who leads us to green here. It will be a very good, interesting way to see him start the race. Austin Graff will start second, the American, on the front row. Maxim Dimitrov and Sander Tampers make up row number 2 with Janssen and Rob Mackay, 2 premier drivers, on row 3. Scott Kostrick, the Scotsman, and James Pallow are on row number 4 with Bert ten Kat and Jan Osberg rounding out our top 10. It's going to be Justin Habermacher and James Hayworth, Mark Van Mulken and Ryan Abbott's the top 14 with Clyde Veyer, James Bostock, Liam Fraser, and race winner in race 1, Robin O'Brown, right in the mid-pack in P18. Danny Weir 19th with the Belgian Anthony Flamel rounding out our top 20. Get towards the bottom half of the grid. Andre Muntian and Jan Noj on row 11 with Gareth Newton and Daniel Poole, an all-British affair, on row number 12. Wesley Van Ryn is ahead of the Premier driver Dean Sheesby in 25th and 26th. The top 30 rounded out by Robert Savage, Adam Baker, Matthias Egert and Hussein Sarika Dessler. 6 more cars though, Lewis Plath and Pete Paiva on row 16, Rob Gregg and Van der Meer on row 17, with Nicky Meering and Robin Aston rounding out the 36 drivers on the grid. And lots of drivers here who are going to be hungry for a good result and hungry to work their way through the field early. None more so, I think it's fair to say, than Robin O'Brien starting in P18.
I must say, Dara, as I'm sure you realise, we led each other astray thinking that we were on a Monday night rather than a Thursday, and therefore we missed the the climax of the significance of Andy Chell and Danny Weir going side by side for the championship lead and for reverse grid pole position on the final lap. No wonder Danny felt bold by going down the inside, because that was the move, not only to beat his championship rival but to take pole position. And now he starts 19 places behind him, so advantage Chell in this second race. We can barely even see Danny in the back of that picture, so a huge night for him. See how he gets on in the first couple of laps, but it's advantage Chell. He shares the front row with Austin Grave, and as we said, Robin O'Brown down there in P18. Leave this one to you, Dara, in the rundown into turn 1.
Yeah, okay then, Andy Schell, the number 5, definite contender in the championship for the Evo class. He's going to lead us to green here. Very interesting grid up and down the field. We've got the half of the grid reversed, actually, with the top 18 swapped around. And Andy Schell waiting for his moment. There he goes. The lights are on, but he has gone and he has released the pack with quite a nice run towards turn 1, not really being pressured into the opening corner. It's going to feel a need to go defensive, though, to the inside line to make sure he can defend that position as they all come steaming in behind, the likes of Van Mulken and James Bostock trying to work their way through. I think we're just about going to see Anthony Flamel see everybody in front of him go in the right direction, but sadly Robert Savage getting caught up in a bit of an incident there. He's going to be slowed in the order, and one of the quartermasters is going backwards while the other quartermaster is leading the field still after the opening few corners. But Dimitrov having a look, Dimitrov having contact, and the top 2 have taken each other out.
Yeah, they're still on the circuit, they're still going. That's going to cause a major bunch up through that left-hander. Maxim Dimitrov fancy his chances up the inside. That promotes Austin Grave into the sharp end of the field. Good news for Danny Weir, though, who hasn't sadly been able to make up a place. He is about the only driver, aside from one other, who hasn't changed position at the start of this race. Andy Chell has recovered nicely into P3, so it's not too bad for him off the race start. Sander Tabbers is putting the Ferrari under a little bit of pressure here. I think he might fancy his chances under braking. He's got the run into turn 12, although he's got to be conscious that he's out of class at the moment. And I've got to say, Mr. Dean Sheesby can't catch a break at the moment. He had such a good race last time out. He's been caught up in collisions toward the start of both races tonight. That's him down the order in P32. We saw that coming out of the exit of the first corner. In the midfield, James Howard swapping positions with Mark Van Mulken, who gets ahead. Howard will be on the inside line going into this tricky complex through 14 and 15. I think he will regain that position. He's got both of the STL machines all around him in close proximity. Clyde Vare fancying his chances. And here's Robin Noel Brown, who's got eyes on so many cars ahead. Got to pick his way through if he wants to get in the lead of the race again.
Yeah, let's see if he can make too many more moves in the opening couple of laps, because he's only made 2 off of the start. Maybe not exactly what he would be looking for. Or maybe getting one on the outside, though, as Clyde Vare is going the wrong way, actually. He may get 2 Hayworths defending on the inside in the Mustang. There's contact. He's gone around 3 of them. By just avoiding the incident, as Danny Weir gets involved in it, mind you, in the background. It's going to be a fantastic move for Noel Brown. Where is Danny Weir, though? Because he's right down the order after going around at the final corner. He's 34th.
Yeah, wow, I've missed that one for Danny. Let me see if I can find that. But yeah, disaster there. It was a move that kind of looked like it was coming. It's caused one hell of a bunch up here. Look at that. God, I've never seen so many cars. Nearly 4 wide there for the 4 in behind Poole, Shisby Baker and Louis Plath. But yeah, disaster for Weir off the start, while his rivals up there in P2 in class. He's all the way down there in P34. STL off the road. That's Mark Van Mulken, the guy who picked up damage. He's reset back to the pit lane. Robin Noel Brown has credited from that in some way. Let's see what happened here between Mark Van Mulken as they head around the final corner. Is his teammate ahead of him? I think James Howarth may have yeah, he's made a move. Clyde Vare has made a move, and then he's lost it of his own accord. Danny Weir, there's somewhat of a, I wouldn't call it a rejoin, but Mark Van Mulken put the throttle down again, kind of came back across into the circuit, and I think Danny was really unable to get out of the way. Let's see what he saw as he headed through the final corner. Chaos ahead, and then I think it was just wrong place, wrong time for Danny. Can't see what's going on. Gets tagged and spun around.
Yeah, he's going to be going down the order again. Noel Brown, though, making some good moves up into P11 now, so 7 of the 17 chalked off for him. He's got 10 more to go. But I think he'd back himself right now. He'd definitely give himself a chance as we run our way towards the mid stage of this race, because he's got a little bit of clean air and then a chance to make his way through some drivers. But then this clean air is giving him a chance to get into a bit more of a rhythm again and get the pace up. So definitely a good chance for Noel Brown to get back to the front of the field. Just a lot of cars to work his way through.
Yeah, lots of drivers heading off this circuit. I think 3 or 4 must have got caught up in something toward the end of the second sector, I think it was. We're running on board with the leader at the moment, though. Sander Tabbers was able to make a move on Austin Graves to take the lead of the race, of course, in the Evo class. But he knows that if he's got the pace, then why not make that move stick? It's exactly what he's done. He leads at the front of the field. Let's take a quick look at how he got that one done. It's again the rundown into turn 12, the prime overtaking opportunity. He's on the inside line. I don't think Austin's going to have too much to say about that one. He's not even going to try, which makes sense, really. He maybe thought about a switchback there, but the McLaren poised nicely in the right place at the right time. That's how the move was made at the front of the field, and now Sander Tabbers can stretch his legs, try and extend that advantage. But of course, Andy Chell not too far behind in P3 on the road at the moment, under pressure from Klaas Janssen, though, who might be able to put another car in between him and the Evo leader.
Yeah, definitely. Let's just keep an eye on how Tabbers can do here, because this is a really good chance for him to try and regain a little bit of the form that he had at the start of the season. Shell is going to get dispatched by Klaas Janssen in towards turn 12 as Janssen works his way up into P3 overall, and now he's going to get past the 2 class leaders. But he's got more than enough time to do it as he comes around this middle sector. The BMW looking beefy, but making sure that it's past and ahead of Andy Chell. Sarah Kadesla trying to make moves as well, and getting down the inside of James Hayworth. He gets that one done.
Yeah, lovely move there, up the inside and around the outside again by Sarah Kadesla. Gets his nose in front and stays in front of that Mustang, who's struggling a little bit to stay in touch at the moment in P11. Hussein will fancy his chances after having a pretty poor session earlier on. He knows that he's now back into a favourable position very early on in the race. James Bostock, he's round. I thought he was getting a move done, but instead everyone's doing the move on him. He's got to painfully sit there while the field come through. He's going to back it off and get himself in a good position. He was right toward the sharp end of the field there for some time, and then it all went wrong. It was Justin Habermacher who made the move. Let's see how this one went down. Bostock is in the front of the pack. Habermacher makes a lunge on the McLaren. Oh, and it's way too late on the brakes there by Habermacher, the Swiss driver there, sadly. Bit too optimistic on the brakes, and he takes out the boss man for good measure.
Yeah, it's not ideal, and if you don't want to, if there's one person you don't want to really cause contact with, it's James Bostock, because the vindictive hammer is going to be absolutely smashed on your head. No, of course not. James will not. Won't treat anybody differently, but if there's one person you want to keep on side while you're in the server, it's probably going to be James. But he's, I'm sure, going to be enjoying the fight back in this race, or equally maybe shouting at his sim rig. We don't quite know. Probably good that we're not hearing some of the language, though, because it may be unbroadcastable, it's fair to say.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll just be, it'll be a little huff and a puff and a little shake of the head, and then he'll be back on the move again. So he'll be focused by now, back in with it, and he'll fancy a move here up the inside of Ryan Abbott, who's of course out of class. Got to stick with Dean Sheesby as we run down into turn 12 again. It seems like this is where all the moves are being made, and there's no way he backs out of this one. Later on the brakes, just about gets it slowed down, turned in first gear, and he's got that move done before the exit of the corner. Is Ryan Abbott going to fancy it? No, he's not. He gets that move done. He can now think about chasing after Mr. Bostock at the front of the field. Jan Osberg and Bertin Kat running slightly wide off the circuit there, but he's managed to rejoin in a safe way. Gets his Audi up the inside of the Porsche. James Howarth will be thinking about this one again into the penultimate corner, looking to get the run on the AM driver of Bertin Kat. He's going to be on the inside line, ending into the final corner, backs out of it, and he'll try that move later down the line. Of course, Osberg now with a nice little gap to work with, and Justin Habermacher is still going here. James Pallow, not shy, the man in the top 3 of the Evo class, not shy mixing it in with the big boys toward the front of the Evo class.
No, he's not, and it's good to see that we have that mix of drivers with the confidence to really try and push themselves forward in this race. Austin Graf wouldn't mind getting himself forward and into the overall race lead, because Salah Tabba still holds that for the time being as we near the 3rd race distance here. But even so, I think there's a few drivers, the likes of Rob Mackay, who's on the back of Scott Kostrick, the likes of Habermacher and Sarah Kadesla, who maybe aren't having that headline season for them, but are definitely going to be within a shout of getting some good results towards the end of the season. This is going to be maybe their best chance to get a win from here on out. I'm sure they back themselves for something better, but there's no guarantees in a series like this.
Yeah, great run out of the corner there for Mr. Howarth. I think that was through turn 6, and then he launched into the braking zone at turn 7. Well, not really braking zone, but launched it into the turn in at 7. Got that move done past Bertin Kat. And I must say, quick word for Danny Weir, who's down the order, currently P28 on the road, P12 in class. I mean, the cause and effect of what we saw earlier on at the end of the first race, he must be absolutely kicking himself that he wasn't able to make it stick, because he would have been nowhere near that contact which has cost him so dearly in this second race. But that's absolutely the way that racing goes sometimes. He was a fraction of a second away from leading the field, and instead got himself caught up in the midfield, and now is well out the order, while his championship rival has a good time of it in P2 at the moment. So yeah, commiserations for Danny. He's been doing so well. That podium streak came to an end today, and sadly I think he'll struggle to get himself back into the top 5 in this one, but he's certainly made an impression in the last few races, and something that he will, I'm sure, continue on over the next 3 weeks worth of racing.
Yeah, and I think your point about the reverse grid there shows, and I think it's an underrated point, shows the importance of the reverse grid. You need to make sure you're in that reverse grid if you're going to be on the cusp, because if you're not, your evening can look so different. Andy Schell is comfortably second in class right now. He's having a whale of a time up there. Yeah, he's not quite as fast as the number 2 of Sander Towers, but, you know, who really cares if you're going to be in P2 picking up a lot of points compared to your championship rival? Danny Weir just getting clipped on the rear end, really unlucky to get involved in the incident. Wouldn't have been there, as you said, if he wasn't in the reverse grid. And it's kind of why we talk about how, particularly drivers in the slower class, well, actually, you know, totally drivers in the slow class, in the Evo class, manage the pace in the opening race. Do they try and go back a little bit to get themselves into a better starting position? Because they'll lose no points, and it could save them a lot of hassle in the race and put them in a position where they can avoid an incident ongoing. So, you know, it all comes into the strategy of these races, and there's a lot to be said for the strategy. And it's just not worked out well for Danny Weir tonight. Andy Schell's loving it, it's clear.
Yeah, looking at the front of the field, particularly in the Premier class, of course, excluding Sander Tabbers, who's having a great time of it so far, it strikes me as somewhat of a repeat of what we saw around Long Beach. I'm thinking we've got Austin Gray, Klaas Janssen, Scott Kostrick, and Rob Mackay, of course. Kostrick opened his feature race championship back at Donington, which feels like a lifetime ago, with a race victory. Rob Mackay came so close to his race victory on the final lap around Long Beach. Klaas Janssen right up there as well, with some positive results so far, but none of which will have really got on the top step of the podium at all, if not in such a long time. And you'd like to think that one of those 4 will make it count tonight, so we could see potentially a new race winner at the top of the field, which was of course great to see. Bodes well for the second half of the championship. But on the topic of that reverse grid order, that's why we do it. That's why we reverse the order so heavily, because those guys who don't often get a chance to fight at the sharp end of it do have their opportunity. If they can make it count and keep it clean, then it's game on. And it's game on, sadly, game off, should I say, for Klaas Janssen, who's been spun around by, I think it was Austin Grave, at the apex at turn 1. Let's go back and see. They exchange positions up the start-finish straight. Klaas has gone for a move. Let's see how it unfolded.
Yeah, Klaas Janssen on the inside line. He's going to miss the apex by a country mile, go into the side, and you'd have to say that I think Klaas only really has himself to blame there. Could have got it to the apex, could have got it stopped, wasn't able to do so, and that's why he now finds himself slightly down the order. Scott Kostrick, somewhat of an well, everyone really, apart from Klaas there, a bit of an innocent victim in everything. But Klaas and that beamy MW is, you know, down the order. He'll be trying to get back, but he's now under pressure from the likes of Osberg and Hayworth, and they are some very tricky customers.
Now, the point that I just made about having a 4-horse battle for the lead, it's obviously now a 3-horse battle. However, let's not forget that Robin Noel Brown is seriously gaining on these guys now. Inside the top 4, yes, he's got pressure from Andy Schell in behind. I'd be surprised if Andy makes a move here, to be honest. He's got nothing to gain from it. In fact, Sarika Desler will be the one to make that move. Let's not make contact with your sister team. He doesn't. He allows Noel Brown to continue on, but he's now got 3 seconds worth of clean air in front of him to catch up to Rob Mackay, and then before he knows it, he'll be on the tail of these drivers. So this is game on for the next 15 minutes. His teammate has sent it on him. Sarika Desler has taken that position away from Noel Brown, made the job even harder for him to get back to the front of the field. That might give the likes of Grave, Kostrick and Mackay a chance to win the race. Of course, if he was able to get into that clean air, Robin Noel Brown will probably be on the back of Mackay in no time. But Sarika Desler's come along and said, no, we're going to battle for P4 at the moment.
Yeah, he's going to make sure that he's involved in it as well. Noel Brown not having it his own way right now. May try and make the move back at turn 1, but not the best of exits, and he will lose time down this front straight. You can see the last lap time pop up now, and Noel Brown 2.5 seconds off what Hus did last lap. Shows A, how much pace Hus has got, and B, how bad the lap from Robin Noel Brown was overall, because Hus fastest driver on the circuit at the moment. Noel Brown quite a long way off it. Let's see if these two can maybe work together to get themselves towards the top 3, because that 3-second gap is bridgeable, but you've got to try and make it bridge it soon, because with only 14 minutes to go, you don't want to be leaving yourself just a lap or two to make 3 moves.
Yeah, Austin Gray didn't have the best lap last time either. It was a 10.9. The two drivers in behind him both in the mid-9s, so about a second lost by Grave on the two drivers in behind him. Then, as you said, Dara, Hus in the 8s, Robin Noel Brown in the 11s. So yes, a pretty poor lap from the championship leader, but it does bode well for the battle between the top 3, who have closed that gap to Mr. Grave at the moment. Sander Tabbers, however, somewhat checking out of this at the moment. He's 3 seconds clear of Austin Grave. He's got pressure from Kostrick in behind. Rob Mackay is there as well. Rob, the man who put on arguably the best display, well, maybe not the best overtake I've ever seen, to be honest, but some great display around Long Beach. Maybe he fancies his chances at doing that again. Doesn't quite have the same heavy braking zone toward the end of the lap like you do at Long Beach, but you can definitely maybe try and replicate what we saw Danny Weir attempting at the end of that last race on these two. And yeah, I think it's game on in the final 13 minutes for any of these guys to try and reclaim their place at the top. Interesting to see how long Sarika Desla holds Noel Brown in behind. Surely there's got to be a word eventually to try and let the champion through. Championship leader through, should I say. He's not quite there yet.
Yeah, not quite there. I mean, this is going to be interesting to see how they play it, that's for sure, in the final 30 minutes or so. Kostrick getting close. I mean, they are being closed upon quite heavily. You can see that gap. When I mentioned it before, it was 3 seconds. It's now down to, let's see when they cross the line what it is. It was 2.3 at the last check. I'm not even sure if it's going to change. I'm not going to change just yet, but it is coming down. Another 2 minute 8.4. It's a further 1.5 seconds gained on Austin that last time around for the 108, and just, you know, reeling in the top 3 at the moment as they just start squabbling. Really, it's not going to be healthy for them to keep this up for much longer, and as it is, they're going to stay pretty much exactly where they are.
Yeah, of course, these two, Scott Kostrick and Noel Brown, not really in contention for anything at the lead of the team's championship. However, strong points on offer, bearing in mind they are a 2-man band at the moment, and they are the leading 2-man band in the championship, which is, I mean, a great return of points. Not so far outside the top 4. All the while, of course, the two teams leading the way coming into tonight, just 1 point difference. The Quartermass Motorsports team and the RDSA team up in the A split. So yeah, those guys not really sharing the track at all, but definitely going toe to toe in the standings. But it'll be good to see Kostrick getting back on well, level terms, I suppose, with what his teammates been doing so far this season. And he's going for it, you know, into turn 12, late on the brakes. They are going to just about make it through the corner, but the Ferrari is going to have that inside line. Rob Mackay is there to try and pick up the pieces. He's going to try and go the long way around, I think, through 14 and 15. Let's see if Mackay really opens up this corner. I think he is. Yes, he is. He's going to look to get a great launch through the triple right-hander. Let's see if he gains any momentum on these guys as they head through this section. Tight line for Ferrari. That's going to compromise his exit a little bit. You can see he's understeered wide through the second part of that triple right-hander. Kostrick surely not going to make a move there. No, he's not. Backs out, a little bit of a wobble by both of the front leaders there. Rob Mackay is in a prime place to try and get one of these guys into turn 1.
Yeah, let's see if he's able to do it as he runs his way through. Just in behind this battle as they run up towards turn number 1. Noel Brown here, Sarika Desla here as well. It's a 5-car party at the front of the field and only 10 minutes to battle it out. There will be 5 more laps. We won't get an extra lap like we did in the opening race. There will only be the 5. There's a move to the inside with Scott Kostrick and Rob Mackay battling. Rob Mackay made the move, or tried to make the move to the inside. It's not worked out for him, and now he's going to come under pressure onto turn 3. Can Sarika Desla make any kind of move on him? No! Oh, and Noel Brown gets dangerously close as they work their way into this opening sector of the lap. Still a long way to go in this race, and these guys bunched up right together now with Habermacher joining the fray.
Oh god, yeah, I was going to say Austin at the front of the field must be feeling so lucky at the moment that he was able to resist that pressure at turn 12 on the lap before. Great run out the corner by Robin Noel Brown. His teammate has done him a favour there to help him get past Rob Mackay. Austin's managed to put a second in between him and his rival. There goes Noel Brown at the inside of his teammate. Two positions in just a matter of corners. Habermacher opportunistically. Rob Mackay drops down from challenging to the lead 2/3 of a lap ago, and now he's down in P6. Not the best lap that Mackay has ever seen, but Noel Brown well within a chance now. Austin has resisted that pressure. Kostrick has closed the gap, and so Hussein back around the outside of his teammate. You'd think at this point Robin Noel Brown should be able to just get on with it and try and catch up with the leaders, because it's so close. Just under 9 minutes to go. 6 cars now, theoretically, within a chance of winning the race. There's Burton Cat leading the field by a couple of seconds, but the drama is at the front of the Premier class by a long shot here tonight.
Yeah, Noel Brown getting himself into P4, but with Havamaker right there, I mean, I don't think Mackay's going to be overly joyed with what he is, he's feeling in the car right now, but he will have to try and recover from the position that he is in as they make their way into the penultimate into the penultimate corner and into the final corner now. Rob Mackay still lurking, but he's just not where he needs to be. He's not quite got that speed and power at the moment, and he's got 8 minutes to try and get himself back into the top 5, but I think really the battle is with Sarah Cadestra and Noel Brown to try and get themselves onto the top step of the podium, and here comes Noel Brown on his teammate.
Yeah, defence again on the inside line by the NSX, and Robin Noel Brown really up for the challenge here. I'm surprised these guys are going so hard, you know, fingers crossed it doesn't end in tragedy for the pair of them. But yeah, I'm not sure if this is what I'd hoped for. Of course, they're not direct teammates. I'm not sure if they're even communicating. As far as I'm aware, these guys are just free reign to go at it. 3 Suma liveries inside the top 4, though. It's a great sight for those guys as a larger team as a whole. Austin Grave under pressure still from Kostrick. I don't know what to say, Dara, to be honest. We've got so much going on. 7 minutes left. Fingers crossed this goes all the way to the end and we see a bunch up once again. What we don't want is for Kostrick to ditch Sarika Desla while these two battle for the final place on the podium. We want them all to stay together, see if we can get some action for the lead of the race. Let's cut away for a moment, though, because we don't want to give these guys all the spotlight, although I don't want to miss a move for the leading class. Austin Gray feels the need to defend the inside line. Kostrick is going to have the overlap around the outside. He is going to go for the move. What a move that'll be. Wow, what a move that is by Kostrick. Late on the brakes, and manages to get it slowed down all the way around the outside, and no pressure from the Ferrari on the switchback on the drive to the next corner. He's got that move done, takes the lead in the class, and pushes all those drivers back into contention. There goes Sarika Desla.
And going around at a really bad point on the circuit as well. Drivers coming through. That's Andy Chell trying to make his way through. There's the 180 on the inside of Klaus Janssen getting squeezed by Rob Mackay as they work their way into the triple right-hander. That gets very close. These guys dropping a long way, or at least a lot further off the back of the top 4 as we see Andy Chell there in front in the middle of this battle now. But what a move that was. Nearly from Klaus Janssen on the inside. He's going for it again into the final corner. He may have a better run this time around. Mackay's going to try and get the traction. The curb won't help him out, but they're going to be dead heat side by side as they cross the line. The straight line speed looks like it's working a little bit better in that McLaren than the BMW, and he should be able to defend the lead into turn 1 unless there's a big old send, which there will be.
Yeah, great move by Janssen in on both accounts. Mackay just about keeping it within the track limits there, but that really has spiced things up at the front of the field. So much action. First it was Kostrick up the inside of Grave, then it was Sarika Desla fancying his chance, and sadly it all came undone for the Turkish 108. Andy Chell probably doesn't fancy being in this pack at the moment, stuck in between this crazy battle that we've got at the front of the Premier class. Meanwhile, Sander Tab is still 3 seconds up the road ahead of the entire field. Andy has to be careful not to get himself caught up, knowing that James Pallow is really gaining on the back of this. He should just come into shot. There he is, the red McLaren. He'll fancy getting on with Chell, so a lot to play for. Here comes Robin Noel Brown. He's got one more car to get through. I think he's going to make that move. Yes, he is, to the inside line at 12. As we said, it's been the most opportunistic place to make a move under braking, and now, oh, I think he's still on the inside. He is. Yes, the Ferrari is still there. Not going to let this one go so easily. It's going to be tricky for these two through turns 14 and 15. He's got it done around the outside. Great move by Noel Brown. It's a 1-2 for the Suma GP2 team as it stands. Let's see if we get a couple of team orders in play in the next 4.5 minutes between these two.
Well, Noel Brown may even just back himself to get the move done anyway, organically, without having to be handed it. Let's see if he's able to do so. There will be 2 laps at the end of this one, so not much time left to try and get it done, but with with your teammate at the front, never a bad thing, is it can really help you out, and they can try and at least pull away and consolidate this 1-2 to the end of the race. Noel Brown may not be too concerned by Kostrick's. If Kostrick is the only driver gaining points on him in this race, and of course he won the opening race. He'll still win the night and gain away from literally everybody else. But even so, wouldn't mind going for the win, for the double win on the evening. And his pace would suggest that he is more than capable enough of at least making a send on the final lap, maybe.
Yeah, the more I think about it, actually, I think it will be a fair fight. I believe Robin will know that he doesn't necessarily need all of the extra points, the 5 extra points that he would get for overtaking Kostrick. And Scott, of course, is somewhat of an ESR veteran. I believe he's been here since the very beginning, if not season 2 for definite. And I think it was the first time that he, of course, won a race. I'm sure he's won in class before, but that first round at Donington was the first time that he led the field over the line, and I'm sure that Robin Noel Brown wouldn't want to unjustly take that opportunity away from him, unless he has to, of course. If he can do it on pace, then that's a different story, but if Kostrick can defend until the end of the race, then I don't think Robin Noel Brown will be too disappointed in losing out on those points. All of what we just said over the last 2.5 minutes, Dara, might be about to be undone if Noel Brown moves up the inside. Let's see, into turn 12 again, he's going to stay put. Something tells me it might stay like this, because we don't want to see too many frantic moves between these two to hand the position to Austin and Habermacher. Let's get a 1-2 for the team instead.
Yeah, and I think for these two, they wouldn't mind just staying where they are. Jan Osberg would like to stay where he is because he's being overtaken at the moment. Here's James Hayworth trying to come around the outside at the moment. Oh, it gets close as they run through turn 13. Nearly door-to-door contact. You can pretty much see his nose hairs through the window there. They were so close, but they will work their way into turn 15. Outside line move, maybe. Oh, having to turn out of it for Kostrick as there's Clyde Veyer coming up the inside, trying to make a bit of an opportunistic move and nearly working out in the Ferrari. Hayworth will defend in the end. And the DXT Luna car will stay in P10, but Veyer gave it a good go and will be in P11 after that one. Let's see it from this angle, because I think going for the wide line, he thought he was trying to go for the outside line move, but all of a sudden for Hayworth, he was being sent on by the Ferrari. So good opportunism there from Clyde.
Yeah, I think great driving on display from both the Ferrari and the Mustang. Hayworth saw him coming, opened up the steering not to get spun around, but of course opportunistic by Veyer to fancy his chances at the inside there. So great display on show by all of those guys. Klaas Jansen and Jan Nage having a little bit of a moment. I think Jan Nage might have just reset to the pit lane. Yes, he has. This is the closest battle that we have on the circuit outside of those lead Premier drivers. Just 1 minute to go then. Let's cross the line with Danny Weir to see if we have the white flag. I'm not sure. I think this could be the white flag. It will be very close, actually. Let's just double check, because that will really change things. Austin Grafe is under pressure from Justin Habermacher. I missed it from the gantry there, Dara. I'm not sure if you saw it.
Yeah, there was a white flag. There was.
Okay, brilliant. So this is the last lap. Kostrick bumper to bumper with his teammate, heading down toward the final, turn 12. If he doesn't make a move now, then he's not going to make a move at all, and they will cross the line in this order. There we go then. I think nothing at play. It was clear that Noel Brown could have taken that win, but as I said, the more I thought about it, I think it would be right for Kostrick to be able to bring home his second win of the season, and as I said, potentially only the second time he's brought the field over the line in what has been tens and tens and tens of races with ESR over the last 2 years, if not more. So great to see for the 101. Scott Kostrick now, he's got 2 more braking zones to go before he can call himself a multi-race winner in B-Split here in the ESR GT3 Season 7 Championship. And it looks as though it's going to be golden for the Suma GP2 team. Both of them round the final corner. It's a 1-2 finish, maximum points for the team. It's Scott Kostrick leading Robin Noel Brown, the championship leader, across the line ahead of Justin Habermacher in the end, who was able to take Austin Grafe. Great display by the American driver on home soil. He led the field for much of that first race, but in the end, top 4 will have to do. Sander Tabbers, great race by him. Apologies that we didn't cover an awful lot from Sander, but there was so much going on elsewhere in the field. Andy Chell and James Pallow will round out the podium in the Evo class. Burton Cat in P4, Ryan Abbott's in P5, Danny Weir P9.
Yeah, great race in the end, as a couple of donuts are in full display as well. It really was a great race. Van der Meer. Well, it was a good recovery from Jelmer, but donuts for P7 must be pleased. It's
Yeah.
on the exit of turn number 2. I
He's
really
just
thought that
having
was one of
fun.
the top guys, but I think he did. Well, he did. I think he made up the most positions in that race. To be fair, so there's reason.
24.
But yeah, yeah, there you go. That's fair enough if you're spinning. That's 2/3 of the entire field.
Yeah, great result. He and Sarika Desla also made up 24 places, which is always good to see. If you can't do a couple of donuts at the end of a race, then why not? A dribble over the line for Van Ren with damage on the front right of that Ferrari. It's going to be Robert Savage next to cross the line. He's rounding the final corner in P12 in the Evo class. Damage on the front of that Porsche as well. Then it's going to be Mark Van Mulken, who I think had an incident earlier on for STL1. His teammates done pretty well higher up the field, of course, but same, sadly, can't be said for the Dutchman, who, for good measure, ploughs it into the pit wall to sum up what has been not the best night for him.
Yeah, a few drivers who won't be, over the moon with how it's been tonight. They've still got 3 weeks to try and pick up some good points for their championship aspirations. It doesn't always have to go right every single week. They all know that. But great result in the end for the two teammates at the front of the field. And I think there's no doubt that they are going to be the most delighted come the end of this race and put themselves in a good position, not just in the drivers, but in the team's championship as well.
Absolutely right. So we can take you through the order as always, and we've given them enough praise in the last 5 minutes. But Scott Kostrick and Robin Noel Brown, huge congratulations to those two. For Suma, GP2 Porsche winning the race just 3/10 apart, and great sportsmanship really by the teammates not to pressure one another and to allow Kostrick to take only his second race victory of the season. Great move in the end by Justin Habermacher to get past the American Austin Grave, with Sarika Desla, after an early spin, finishing inside the top 5. I'm sure he'll be satisfied with those points. Rob Mackay will finish inside the top 6 ahead of Jarmo van der Meer, and that'll be Jan Osberg, James Howarth and Clyde Veyer rounding out the top 10. It'll be James Bostock and Anthony Flamel finishing ahead of Dean Schiesby and Klaas Janssen, with Maxim Dimitrov rounding out the top 15. Mark Van Mulken will finish ahead of Liam Fraser. Then it's Adam Baker, who I believe will be the last to score points, with Rob Gregg and Pete Paeva finishing in a point-scoring position, but too far away from the lead lap to be considered in the classification. And then it's Matthias Eggert and Robin Aston down there at the back, and I don't think there's anybody else to go through. No, there is not. 22 drivers, most of which, thankfully, finishing the race.
Less drivers over in the Evo class, but still a very good race from Sander Tabers, who was absolutely supreme to win out in that number 2. Andy Chell, who's definitely going to be in the championship, well, it should be, I should say, in the championship lead by the end of the day, may not be with the tightness of the top of the field, was in P2. James Pallow, the man from Jersey, back on the podium in 3rd, pushed Andy all the way. Bertrand Cut, after the P2 in the race 1, got P4 in race 2, and after his win in race 1, Ryan Abbott's got to P5, so good points for both of those drivers tonight. Daniel Paul and Jan Noj, 6th and 7th ahead of Andre Muntian. Danny Weir and Wesley Van Ren, the top 10 drivers. Lewis Plath and Robert Savage found themselves 11th and 12th, with Gareth Newton just a 1 lap down. Sadly for Nicky Meering, though, after being 3 laps down in the opening race, 7 laps down in the second race means that there won't be any points in race number 2, at least for the South African, and it's been a relatively a night to forget for him.
Absolutely right. Well, that has been a cracking night. Normally, it's pretty good, but drama at the end of both races, and yeah, great to see the leaders staying together so far and so deep into that second round. We're going to bring in a couple of drivers now, as always, for a quick interview before we close out. And I believe, Dara, we have one of our championship challengers in the Evo class, Mr. Andy Chell, who will be pretty pleased, I think, with that night overall. Of course, Danny not scoring the points that he has been as of late. So let's get him in for a quick word, and yeah, we can see how we enjoyed that session out here around COTA.
Yeah, that's what Andy has to say. I believe he's able to join us now. Andy, welcome in. Can you hear us?
I can, gents. Can you hear me?
We can, Andy. Well, first of all, welcome back into the booth, and congratulations. A good haul of points. Of course, race 1 not quite as good as what you might have hoped for. Race 2, though, you recovered nicely. Talk us through the final stage of that first race. We saw the move with Danny up your inside, which was obviously definitive not only in the standings, but also to get on that reverse grid pole position. You took the favour in that one. How did it feel to come out on top and then start the field at the front?
Yeah, I mean it was very respectful racing between me and Danny. It always is when we race. He's like having Iceman out of Top Gun behind you. He very rarely puts a foot out. He's really good, to be honest with you. So I honestly, hats off to him. Really good racing. And yeah, I mean, we got our usual spotter in with us, letting us know how we were getting on. Unfortunately, he hadn't got the track, so he was watching the stream. So thank you to you guys for a good stream. It's kept me informed. And when he told me I was in P18, because I asked him where I was overall just to check. I was like, okay, fine, we'll last lap, it's fine. And then it snapped going into the S's, and Danny was right on me, and I was like, I have got to fight this and hold this, because I can't lose points to him now. We're in that stage where it is very much every point means a prize, essentially. So yeah, it was one of them of fight it tooth and nail. All the Royal Naval grit going in just to keep it. But I think we had a good little fight, and it might not be. I think it was P5 for the first race, but it's worth points at the end of the day. And then like I say, me and the start was quite a nice start to the second race. A little tap with Maxime, but it's nothing malicious. I don't think it was just I take maybe a different line to him through that corner, and he didn't expect me to close off. So it's one of them things. Racing incident. Nothing too major lost, really, if I'm honest. Yes, it'd have been nice to keep Chris behind, but he got pace today. I mean, he outrun six, I think, Prem drivers. So it's like, it's props to him. He deserved that one. And I mean, it's been a hard week for me. I won't lie. We had a death in the family on Monday, so it's been quite difficult for me to get time in to do practice. So yeah, it's quite nice to have a decent result, to be honest.
Well, that's good. Yeah, and well, commiserations there, of course, but you're still here. You put on a good display. Talk us through, you've got, well, you and Danny are going to be neck and neck, basically, going into this final couple of rounds. Back to Europe, Imola, Mugello, and then across, of course, to Bathurst, which is going to be one hell of a finale. Are you looking forward to those circuits, maybe more familiar ground? And of course, as you said, you and Danny are going to share that championship rival, and it seems like, as you said, respectful between the both of these. It should be a cracking run-in. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's definitely tracks I think will suit the Porsche with Imola and Bathurst for definite. So me and Danny are going to be, if we're able to get the practice in and we're able to, nothing gets in the way for us, then I think it will be quite close between us. We usually end up pretty close anyway. So, yeah, it's definitely one that's going to be an interesting one. Mugello's not one I'm overly familiar with. I think I've raced it once or twice, but it's not one that I would say I'm confident to say that I could run well at. But that being said, it's it's a lottery on that. You never know, you might get there, the car might hook up and it'll be brilliant. But again, if the car's working for me, there's a good chance it's working for Danny, which again makes it makes it all about how we come off the starts, and how it comes down to us as drivers as opposed to the car, because we're both in the same. And that's not to take away from the other two that are pretty close to us. We've got Ryan in the Mustang, really close. Imola is going to suit that. Long straight is going to suit it. The twisty bits maybe not so much, but it'll make up for it, especially down the pit straight. It'll make up for it massively. And then we've got Bert in the Audi, and despite I don't get on with the Audi, but he does wonders in it, in my opinion. So I'm not going to count the other two out just yet. To be honest with you, yeah, me and Danny are going to have a close fight, but Bert's never not
exactly been far behind us, and same with Ryan, to be fair. So it could end up being a four-way battle into Bathurst, which would be quite interesting, to be honest. Like I say, we just got to see. And then, I've got to say props at the team. We're turning up every week, working hard, and I think, our team's championships, I think we're still in first. I could be wrong, but I think we are. So again, I've got to give all four drivers that have been running in it, they deserve, congratulations from it. Not just me, but there's Bobby, there's Rob, and there's Ryan. They're all doing a good job. So, yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting in the last 3 races, and I'm genuinely looking forward to them.
Good stuff, mate. Well, that's always good to hear, and fingers crossed it's stays competitive toward the end of the season. So thanks for joining us, and good to speak to you. And good luck in your preparation for the next couple of weeks.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks. Bye.
Andy Trell there. Always great to speak to Andy after a good result for him. I think there's another driver I can see who got onto the podium in the Evo class, just this evening, and that is the man from Jersey, James Pallow. So we'll try and drag him in just a second, but it's always great to be able to speak to some of the top runners in the class. As there he is on the screen, so we'll drag in James now. James, welcome in. Can you hear us?
Well, we can.
Hello, mate. Well, welcome back into the booth. It's been a little while since we spoke, and you had a pretty good run out there tonight. Doing all right in the teams championship as well. Good haul of points inside the top 3. Talk us through that one. How did you feel around a pretty tricky track, I think, for a lot of these drivers?
It was good. Tyre wear was a nightmare, to be honest. At least halfway through the race, it drops off quite dramatically, especially in the McLaren. But it was pretty clean for me. Stayed out of trouble, let the faster cars through when I had chance, and it wasn't too bad, to be honest. I think it was pretty solid. I mean, I've been off the pace in the last couple of races since I had a good result around Road America, but it's nice to be back up here.
I mean, for you, James, a good season built up. You've had a couple of good little spells. Do you think you can carry this momentum through to the end of the season with the final 3 rounds that we've got?
I would hope so. The start of the season was a nightmare. My computer crashed on the first 3 races, which stopped me from getting any real points. Since then, I've been doing all right, picking up some good points. Teams Championship look good for us at the moment. Alex in the other split has been doing well as well. I think he's top of his class, so I think we've got a good chance there. But I'll try and focus on that. I think I might be a bit too far back now with the races left to get anywhere near the top of the class. I mean, Danny's been doing really, really well, except for today. I wasn't sure what happened with him. He finished quite far back, I think.
Yeah, but he wasn't the best night for him. I think he had a bit of an issue the opening lap. He missed out on reverse grid pole in the first race, and then got caught up in an incident early on in the second. So yeah, as I said, season going pretty well for you guys at the moment. How's the team feeling as a whole? I mean, I don't think Tiago's been here too much, but Fretwell doing well in the A split, of course. Wesley still here. You guys fancy a challenge? You're only 60 points. Well, you were 60 points off the lead coming into tonight. So is that what you've got your eyes set as a team, or are you thinking more about the individual performances?
I think as a team, for me at the moment, as I said before, I think I'm a little bit far back for the individual, but I think Alex has got a good chance in the individual, so hopefully he can push on for that. But I think between the 3 of us left, I think Tiago's going to have to not race for the rest of the season. So between us, I think we should be able to pick up enough points to get near the top, if not the top. I think we've got pace in our classes to do that. It's just getting a bit of luck and making sure we qualify well and keeping the positions, really. But yeah, it's looking quite good. I think we should have picked up a few tonight. I know Alex won one of the races. I came P3, I think, in both the races tonight, so that should be a good haul.
Yeah, totally good. Good stuff, mate. Well, thank you for joining us, as always, and good to speak to you again. So, fingers crossed we might get another chance to talk before the end of the season. Good luck with the preparation over the next couple of weeks, and yeah, never know where the championship might end up.
Cool. Cheers, guys.
Good stuff. Cheers, mate.
Great to be able to speak to James Pallow after a good evening's work from him, and finally we can have a quick chat with Rob Mackay after everything that happened tonight. Rob, welcome in. Can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Good stuff, Rob. Well, welcome into the booth for the first time in a little while. Talk us through that second race, particularly because it was so frantic at the front of the field, and sadly, you were the one who was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, ended up dropping out of the order a little bit. Top 6, still very commendable, but there must have been a chance where you were getting Long Beach flashbacks, thinking maybe you can get yourself a race victory here.
I was looking ahead and seeing who I was battling. I was a bit perturbed to be stuck behind Scott again after being stuck behind him most of race 1, but I knew after race 1 where I had a chance to put a move on Scott, so I was hoping we could work together and pull ourselves onto the back of Austin. Unfortunately, when we caught up to Austin and Scott and Austin were battling, Huss and Robin decided to play team games and joined us from behind. So I had 2 cars in front and behind, and a lack of concentration for a moment looking behind rather than in front allowed Huss and Robin to get through.
For you, Rob, overall, I mean, in the championship, going forward into the final 3 races, we've only got those 3 rounds left to run, and of course they are going to be Imola, Mugello, and then we round the season off at Bathurst. Is there one of those 3 that you're particularly looking forward to or targeting, or are you just looking forward to all 3 in total?
I'm looking forward to Mugello. I've had good results around Mugello, and Bathurst is going to be something else. If you can stay ahead of traffic, not get caught on the way, well, I suppose up and down the mountain. If there's an incident, it's going to be a bit of a bottleneck, a bit like Long Beach, but it's a great track to drive. It just, when you get the flow right, just beautiful. And I'm really looking forward to that one to round the season out.
Yeah, it's been quite some time since I think we've raced there. I remember it was the finale in season 3. I'm not sure if we've been there since, but I agree. Very much looking forward to broadcasting that one. And before we let you go, Rob, a shout out for the team, I suppose, because Danny's doing well. James is definitely mincing it in there as well. And of course, the Solar team, in fact, all of them up there in A split. So both you inside the top 7 coming into tonight. I'm sure that might have changed a little bit after we do the standings, but going pretty well this season again for DXT.
Yeah, we've not all had the greatest of races, but overall, between the splits, between the teams, we've been picking up points fairly consistently. So yeah, it's been a great season so far, and hopefully we can finish it on a high as well.
Yeah, it's certainly looking that way, especially for Danny. Obviously, we just had Andy in with us there. Those two seem like it's going to be a pretty respectable end to the season, which is always great to see, a fair championship fight. So fingers crossed for all of you. And yeah, the battle in the Evo class should go on. So thanks for joining us, Rob, as always. And not commiserations. I'm sure you're happy with the result, but it was looking good for you guys at the front for most of the time. So good luck with your preparation for the next couple of weeks. And yeah, maybe we'll speak to you once or twice more before we get to the end of the season.
Hopefully, yeah, I'll be back in there at some point.
Good stuff, Rob. Enjoy your night, and we'll catch you soon.
Yep. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, mate.
Was Danny Weir. Great to sorry, not Danny Weir. I'm going to Rob Mackay. I'm sorry. I was looking at the standings, Joe. Rob Mackay was joining us there. Always great to speak to a few of our drivers, isn't it?
It really is. And in the meantime, there I was getting a little bit distracted by the old score line in the Carabao Cup. So Newcastle have their opposition. The game is set, so I'm looking forward to that one. I'm glad my voice held up. I was telling Tara before the stream that I've been talking all day at work, and I was at the match last night, and obviously a lot of shouting was going on. Thankfully, I've made it to the end of the session. So thanks to everyone who joined us, and of course thanks to everyone who comes along for a word in the interview booth. Lovely shot here of the STL cars making their way through turn 12. Sander Tabbers not with us in the booth, but definitely had a great time out at the front of the field. What a great session it was for him tonight. So we'll close out there ahead of getting really toward the sharp end of the stick in both of our championships. And of course, you can catch us on Monday night again for round 7 of the GT4 TCR Championship. That will be back in Europe around Imola, opening the week around that circuit before these guys on Thursday come along here. Of course, it's an opportunity for the guys in both championships to get a bit of understanding before they turn up here on a Thursday. Information out now for the new Sunday European GT Series, the GT3, GT4 multi-class championship, and very shortly we'll bring information regarding our series next season, particularly for the GT3 Season 8. Can you believe it? Season 8 already. So thanks everyone for watching. Thanks everyone for sticking around. And myself and Dara will catch you back here again at 8 PM on Monday. Enjoy your evening, enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you then.